Hi, this is an AI narrating a fanfic, so you might hear a random number every 15 minutes. Just don't worry about it. I am so sorry for that. This fanfic is about Naruto being trained by Danzo, but Danzo is nice. Hiruzen seals Naruto's memories, chakra and everything off, but don't leave the video cause the story gets to the part where his seals are broken in 5 minutes. This is one of my favorite fanfics. I have read BTW. I read fanfics before uploading them. I only upload fanfics that I read and like. Get this video to 5 likes and 3 comments and I will release the next part. Prologue. Come on Gigi, let me be a ninja already. Hiruzen Sarutobi, the Sandaime Hokage, massaged his temples as he looked down at the little blonde boy who had a determined look on his face. He had been visiting the boy in order to give him a monthly allowance and help him shop for groceries as he lived alone. It might be odd that a little boy like this lives alone instead of with his parents or in an orphanage, but the little boy held within him a massive little deterrent that kept most from wanting to care for him. Naruto Uzumaki held within him the ultimate Biju, the Kyuubi no Yoko, the same demon that had attacked and nearly annihilated Konohagakure no Sato, the village in which this story takes place. Naruto, I can't let you enter the academy. Naruto's face scrunched up, trying to decipher why. But Gigi, you told me other kids ninja as young as me training as ninja. Why can't I? Hiruzen did have to admit to that nugget of truth. Clans in Konoha such as the Uchiha and the Hyuga trained their children from around the time they could walk to become shinobi. Kakashi Hatake had graduated from the academy at the age of 5 and even been promoted to chunin at the age of 6. Same for other prodigious ninja such as Itachi. Uchiha Hiruzen knew it was somewhat hypocritical of him to deny Naruto the same chance that they received, but the people of Konoha would never accept the demon spawn training in the ninja arts right in front of them. This was more for Naruto's safety. The worst thing to him was that he couldn't even tell Naruto why he couldn't allow him to join, that the irrational fear the village as a whole had of him being the Kyuubi reincarnated wouldn't allow them to see him as just a little boy that wanted to prove himself to them all. Hiruzen patted Naruto's head and looked down at him patronizingly. I'm sorry Naruto-kun, maybe one day soon I can let you join, but not now. Naruto watched the old man walk towards his door and shut it on his way out. XXX Naruto walked aimlessly around Konoha trying to ignore the looks that he wasn't getting. He didn't get why Gigi didn't want him to be a ninja. He knew he would be the best ninja ever. That was all he would settle for, no matter how hard he had to work. There was something he wasn't getting, and trying to think about it made his head hurt. Eventually, by the time he had stopped pondering all of the absurd reasons that he wouldn't be allowed into the academy, he even came up with a strange conspiracy that there was some sort of demigod stuck inside of him and everybody knew but him. Crazy, right? He found himself atop his favorite place in the village, Hokage Mountain. It's beautiful, isn't it? Naruto whipped around suddenly to see a man with his head and one eye in bandages and his right arm in a sling also wrapped up. Naruto couldn't feel any real malicious intent from the man, so he allowed him to come closer. He stopped next to Naruto and looked out at the view from the top of the mountain. Truly, being a ninja to protect this village is something that I've always felt as well worth the sacrifice. Naruto's eyes widened, but then he looked away sadly. Gigi won't let me be a ninja. I don't know why, though. I mean, I'll work hard and I know I'd be good at it. The man made a noise as if he was thinking of Naruto's words. You would really work hard. You would do whatever you had to in order to become the greatest ninja you could be. Naruto grinned widely at the man. Not just the best ninja, I can be the best ninja ever. Datbeo. The man had a small smirk upon his lips. Well then, I think I'd like to take a hand in training the greatest ninja ever. How would you like to be a ninja for me? Naruto's grin could have split his face as he latched onto the man excitedly. Thank you, thank you. I can really be a ninja. The man held Naruto off of him. Little boy, the first thing a ninja should know is to never show emotion. I can understand your excitement, but when we begin training I do not want to see that from you. Do you understand? Naruto cowed himself and nodded. Anyo, I don't even know your name? The man turned and motioned Naruto to follow. You may call me Danzo. XXX Naruto. Age 7 underground. The sounds of contact were made. The sounds of physical combat were common in this place. Sparring was intense and brutal to condition the ninja to field conditions. An unnamed teen hit the ground hard, groaning as his eyes flicked in and out of consciousness. The blood caking his face was just another sign of the intensity of the session. Standing over him was a blonde boy sighing in relief at the conclusion of the spar. Takeshi, you hit way too hard. The blonde slowly walked away from the room, checking himself over. He scratched at his fists flaking off the dead skin covered in dried blood. He checked his mouth and sighed before digging into the back of his mouth and pulling out a molar, dropping it on the ground as he walked away. He didn't care too much about it. It wouldn't be the first time he lost teeth down here, and they always grew back. Thank you, Furball. As the boy, clad in black practice clothing, entered the hall, he came face to face with the man responsible for training him. Ah, Danzo Gigi. Good to see you. Danzo frowned at Naruto's disrespect. Boy, if you weren't so damn good at what you do, then I'd have you go back through emotional conditioning again. Naruto gave him a cheeky grin. But that's just it, you know. I'm too damn good to waste going to do that crap, and besides, you know, I can turn it on the second the mission starts. I can be as blank as everybody else when you say go. Danzo let a ghost of a smile appear on his face. He remembered putting Naruto through the paces to rid himself of his emotions. No matter how bad he had Naruto beaten and conditioned, he would still keep a spark of his old personality even after several months of that treatment that had broken everyone else. Danzo had trained for decades until that point. Danzo motioned for Naruto to walk with him. I have a mission for you solo this time. Naruto went into business mode upon hearing those words. What do you require of me, Danzo-sama? Danzo would never openly admit it, but he did rather like the fact that Naruto could turn his ninja mode on and off at the blink of an eye. It made training a bunch of emotionless tools more bearable if one of them had enough self-awareness to actually speak to him with even a hint of cordiality. They weren't necessarily close. Naruto was well aware of the fact that Danzo saw him as nothing more than a tool, a weapon to be brandished to protect Konohagakure, but people have shown that they can value objects and tools above many things in this world. Plus, Naruto's childish streak got a kick out of making Danzo twitch. You've got to enjoy the little things. This one is probably going to be suicide for anyone else other than you. Even you will find it rough going, I would say. Naruto nodded as a sign of his hearing the advice. If this even hints at going under, you get yourself out of their failed mission or not. A shimmer of his eye revealed from Naruto to Danzo that he was affected by those words. Danzo just couldn't tell if it was because he gave the very rare order for him to retreat if necessary, or if it was because he was offended for suggesting that Naruto might fail this mission. Naruto looked up to Danzo, icy blue eyes lacking the solid feeling they were full of just moments ago. Your orders, Danzo-sama. Danzo smiled. I think that he might just be the greatest weapon I have ever had. Training Naruto had not been even a chore when it came time to learn how to fight, how to kill, how to win. Naruto had shown himself a quick study. Danzo relied on Naruto for more of the higher class missions that he knew many of his other operatives couldn't handle because the kid seemingly Didn't accept anything short than a successful mission that made him invaluable, and he'll only continue to grow in strength. I would probably rely on him before I thought of backing one of Sarutobi's soft elites. Oh my old friend. How did you let this gem of a shinobi go? Danzo continued his briefing as he and Naruto had arrived at the armory. You will be infiltrating Ta no Kuni. There have been reports of a new hidden village based out of that nation rising to prominence. Naruto quickly changed from simple practice clothes to gear reminiscent of Anbu armor, clicking the chest protection shut. Hi Danzo-sama. Danzo continued, you will find the location of this village and if possible get inside and keep tabs on what you can see and find when you believe that you have sufficient information to determine whether or not this village is a threat or not. You are to return to base and debrief. You may leave on your own mark. This will be a long-standing assignment. Naruto packed himself with kunai shuriken, flash tags, exploding tags, smoke bombs, anything that he might need. And he packed to the brim sealing whatever he couldn't carry in a scroll. He didn't know whether he would need to restock on this mission or not. Upon his completion of arming his person, he turned to Danzo and bowed. I will leave as soon as possible. Danzo-sama, you will hear from me upon my return. Danzo nodded. By your leave Uzumaki. Naruto stood and walked from the armory, ready for his next assignment. Naruto slipped his mask in with his combat gear as he had replaced it all with simple street clothes as he had to keep up his appearances. Nay was the opportunity that Sarutobi never gave him. He knew all he needed to do to prove his worth as a ninja was a chance, and when that chance was given, he took it. XXX 1 year later, border of Hai no Kuni, Ta no Kuni. An explosion drew Jiraiya's attention away from returning to Konoha. He had just gotten through going through Ta no Kuni looking into rumors of a new hidden village rumored to be called Otogakure. After finding enough to bring back to the Hokage, he made a hasty retreat to the border, and from the sounds of things he wasn't the only one. Jiraiya eventually found himself on the heels of a blur in the darkness. Jiraiya slipped into the shadows of the trees to speed ahead of the fleeing mystery shinobi. However, this was unnecessary as the person in question collapsed and dropped to the forest floor in exhaustion. As Jiraiya walked closer, he saw deep cuts and gashes all over the body of the Anbu, or so his armor had him believing. Jiraiya whistled as he took in the age of the blonde boy on the ground. They're sure starting them younger these days. Jiraiya refrained from moving the mask of the boy, on which he saw a leaf insignia, as Anbu had to keep their identities secret for as long as was feasible to the masses. Jiraiya picked the boy up and made for Konoha, interested in this current situation. XXX Jiraiya had set the boy down in Sarutobi's office and had requested that his Anbu guards leave the room. Sarutobi-sensei, you could have sent me a message that you already had someone in auto-checking things over. I think I might have blown his stealth when I made tracks and left that place. Hiruzen's eyes darkened. I didn't send anyone into Ta no Kuni. I expected you to look into it yourself and send word back like you are now. This Anbu isn't mine. I would never allow a child this young into their ranks. Never again, not after Itachi. Jiraiya scratched his white mane. Well, I kind of figured that, but I thought you might have made an exception or something. Sarutobi rose from the desk and walked over to where the masked boy lay. He narrowed his eyes at the kanji he found right by the leaf symbol on the forehead. Danzo. Nay again. Jiraiya sighed. I thought you handled him and that group of blank faces. He's still doing this. Jiraiya shrugged. Well, at least he also recognizes Otto as some kind of unknown quantity. Hiruzen reached down and pulled off the mask. What he saw almost gave him a heart attack. And Naruto. Jiraiya ran over, looked down, gaping at the sight. Kamihi looks just like Minato. Wait. Sarutobi is this Minato's child. Hiruzen settled himself somewhat, yes. Jiraiya, this is his child. Danzo must have gotten his hands on him. I should have known when I went to see him he was becoming progressively more aloof and secretive. I stopped getting reports about him around town completely. I figured he must have just been keeping a low profile, but I never would have guessed. Jiraiya looked angry. Danzo turned Minato's son into a mindless drone. I'm going to. Jiraiya, wait. Jiraiya turned to face his teacher with an angry look. The council wanted him to be trained under Danzo's watch anyway. They'll see him in the right if this gets out. You and I are the only ones that know about this. Jiraiya bared his teeth. He won't tell us anything about Danzo even if he had any real reason to tell us anything. Danzo has seals on his ninja that keep them from speaking about Ne too freely. I've seen it. Hiruzen nodded. I know, so what if instead of using him to get to Danzo we just take him away from that place entirely? Seeing Jiraiya's confusion, he elaborated. Danzo won't move to retrieve him no matter how valuable he knows a Jinchuriki is to his goals. All we need to do is keep him under watch and seal him. Jiraiya nodded in agreement. So what? Memory seal, chakra seal, what exactly are we sealing? Everything. Jiraiya's eyes widened. Now when you say everything, Hiruzen stood back up. I mean everything. His entire mind and body have been utterly conditioned by Danzo to fight. He would have never been out there if he wasn't at least as strong as one of my Junin. Danzo wouldn't have allowed it seal at all. If we just seal his memory, then he would still be infinitely more powerful than any academy student even without the knowledge of all of the techniques. Just with the academy techniques he would still obliterate any academy student. Jiraiya looked at the unconscious blonde on the floor. I don't like this, Sarutobi-sensei. What will you do with him then? Hiruzen picked the boy up and put his mask back on. I will allow him to enroll in the academy. I'm wearing the council down. Soon I can get them to let him attend him. Staying off of their radar has helped considerably. Jiraiya followed Hiruzen down to the depths of the tower to commence with the sealing of the young boy. XXX Ne base. Konohagakure. The sound of a door shutting sounded through Danzo's speakers on his desk. The injured man put his face into his hand and groaned. Uzumaki. Damn it. Jiraiya? How was he to know the wandering sage was in Otto as well? From the sound of things, the flamboyant shinobi had placed their forces on high alert upon his own exit, and with Naruto stuck inside that buzzing hive with everyone searching high and low for anything amiss, the boy had run into quite a bit of trouble when he took to making his own hasty retreat. Danzo's weapon was lost to him now. He knew Sarutobi would never allow him to get anywhere near Naruto again. Danzo pulled out a bottle of sake and poured himself some. After tossing the alcohol back, he grimaced slightly. And we move along. XXX. 4 years later, a blonde in an orange jumpsuit sat down deep in the forests of Konoha. Man, that was so easy. Why wasn't that the regular graduation exam? The boy unfurled the scroll in his grip and read it. Oh man, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Bunshin? My worst technique. He sighed and put on a cocky grin. Right then. Let's get started. XXX. Hours later, Iruka Imino Chunin and teacher in Konohagakure's Ninja Academy stood in astonishment. Naruto Uzumaki, the dead last of his class, the failure he had just witnessed, the boy in question call upon an almost endless horde of Kage Bunshin to beat his former teacher's aide Mizuki into a bloody pulp. Naruto stood over the groaning man, smiling at Iruka sheepishly. Whoops. I guess I went a little overboard, huh? Iruka smiled and called Naruto over to him. I've got something for you. Naruto, close your eyes. Naruto did as he was told and felt his goggles shift on his forehead. Okay, go ahead and Open them. Naruto opened his eyes and saw his smiling instructor Sans Hite holding his goggles. Congratulations Naruto, you graduate. XXX 6 months later. Forests outside of Konohagakure. Naruto was smashed back by Gaara in his monstrous form. Naruto sailed through branches until he landed against a tree and slumped against it. Naruto grunted in pain as he sat up to look at the insane Suna. Ninja Gaara had a maniacal grin on his half-demonic face. You are weak Uzumaki, you lack power. Sasuke landed on Naruto's branch looking worse off than Naruto himself was, with strange black markings on the right side of his body. Naruto, get out of here, get Sakura and run, I'll handle this. Guy. Naruto went to speak when Sasuke clenched his fists. If I can't win here, then I'll never be strong enough to defeat him. I will have reached my limits. Naruto looked at Sakura pinned to a tree trunk with Gaara's sand slowly crushing her. Naruto stood up and wiped the blood from his lip. He looked down at Sasuke. Don't worry Sasuke, I won't lose here. Naruto flipped through hand signs and slapped his palm to the tree branch. A puff of smoke revealed a small orange toad. Hey there, I'm Gamakichi, got any sweets? Naruto flipped out. I can't believe this crap, what's with you stupid toads? I can never get a useful one, this is really not the time for this. The small toad jumped onto Naruto's head and gave him a raspberry. So you're an amphibian hater, huh? Gaara had had enough of this. All the time spent allowed him to fully turn into his mini Shukaku form, Suna Shuriken. Naruto saw the spinning discs of sand coming his way and cradled Gamakichi with his body taking the hits. He flew back and hit another branch. Gamakichi looked at him in concern as Gaara cackled, you see, Uzumaki, only when you fight for yourself can you truly be strong. I'll wait for you to realize this and leave your friends here to die so you can escape. Naruto wordlessly placed Gamakichi down and turned to face Gaara. The look in his eyes irked Gaara, who sent another salvo of sand shuriken at Naruto, hitting him dead on and sending him back again. Naruto stood up almost immediately. What is this feeling? I feel stronger. Like that didn't hurt at all. Sasuke looked at Naruto as he saw Naruto's strength returning to him as a burst of visible blue chakra erupted from Naruto. The blonde's look of confusion and awe at himself turned to a wail of pain as he clutched his head and dropped to the ground screaming XXX. Naruto's mindscape. The Kyuubi no Yoko was bored. It had been bored for years, ever since Naruto's memories and skills had been sealed away there wasn't any action for it to watch or even partake in, as Naruto was wont to do from time to time. When the boy finally made his return during his month of training with Jiraiya, he was noting like the Naruto that had earned his respect in his childhood. This Naruto was loud and brash with no true talents to back it up. With the old Naruto wasn't nearly as loud, and while he had his moments of being a loudmouth, he always had the talent to go with it and the drive to do better. The seal had handicapped him and his thinking for 4 years. The Kyuubi really couldn't even say that the new Naruto had potential. The old one had potential and he had started achieving it, then it was taken away, and no one can have potential twice in their lifetime. As it pondered how exactly it was going to break out of its rotting prison, many markings appeared on the outside of the Kyuubi's cage. At first it was confused until it remembered the exact same patterns appearing 4 years ago, right before everything turned to shit. Oh, it's about time. Took you long enough, Ninjin. Focusing its chakra into a line, it pushed it out from the bars of the cage slowly so as to not upset the Shiki fusion. Finally the chakra made contact with the walls and began to cover the lines, following them straight to the source. As the Kyuubi watched the lines turn red and rush off down the halls of Naruto's mind, it allowed itself a triumphant smirk on its vulpine features. Welcome back, Kit. XXX. Temari had seen the Uchiha fight Gaara. He had done well until he ran out of chakra and began getting decimated by Gaara until his orange-wearing teammate came onto the scene. Then he ended up getting beaten down too. During his beating, however, he began to gain energy, taking Gaara's shots and walking right through them. He exploded with raw chakra, and Temari had never seen anything like that before. Chakra visible to the naked eye so much that it seemed strange to the boy himself. As he began getting a handle on the situation, he collapsed screaming and holding his head, all the while as he lay on the tree branch a strange mark appeared on his head, forcing lines to branch out over his entire body, covering him from head to toe. Temari shook in place on her branch. They're all freaks. Every last one. The lines suddenly turned red as a massive pressure filled the immediate area. It didn't feel evil, malicious, angry or anything. It just felt like Naruto, just magnified 100 times. The lines faded away from the downed blonde. All attention turned to him as he groaned and stirred on his belly. He quickly snapped to his feet and looked around his own body, flexing his fists and shaking out his legs. The only noticeable change in his base appearance was the scar going down his eye, a battle scar that wasn't existent a moment ago. He had an angry sneer on his face before he shook his head pitifully. Kami, I suck. I'm as weak as a kitten like this. What happened to me? I'm confused. Sasuke looked up at Naruto. It was the same kid that had been there a second ago, and yet it wasn't he. Looked like Naruto, but he didn't move like Naruto. He moved like he was coiled and waiting to strike, as if he expected an attack coming from anywhere. His eyes were the same bright blue like Naruto, but now they had more in them than just the infinite brightness they usually held. It was still there, but there was more that Sasuke couldn't quite see. He was as calm as they came. You wouldn't even know that he was preparing to get into a fight from looking at him, and he looked out at Gaara without fear, anger, interest or anything, and he accentuated this by sighing and speaking his next words. Alright, Gaara. I don't know what the hell is going on with me right now. I have an idea, but I need some damn answers. But to do that I need to go back to Konoha. I need to go back and end this invasion. And you're in my way, so it's time to get you out of the way. End of prologue. Naruto's head was splitting. The rush of memories returning to him in that instance gave him the mother of all migraines, and the dueling memories of his time in Ne and the memories that he assured himself were implanted somehow weren't helping at all either. After hearing the confidence in Naruto's voice ring out in the forest, Sasuke spoke up. Naruto, what happened to you? What's going on? Naruto looked down at Sasuke with one eye and back up at Gaara. You know, I'm not entirely sure myself right now. I feel like crap, but compared to the way I've been feeling for the last 4 years, I feel amazing. It's hard to explain. He grunted. It's not important right now. I have to beat his ass, hustle back to Konoha, and find someone like Danzo or something that can explain all of this to me. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to attack him, and you aren't now commencing Operation Beat Gaara's Ass. Sasuke had a myriad of questions running through his head at this point. What happened to the Dobi? Who is Danzo? What the hell does he mean? I'm not fighting. Gaara heard his voice speaking to Sasuke the entire time and cackled to Naruto across the trees. You aren't strong enough, Uzumaki. Leave them behind and run. Nothing has changed. You still don't fight for yourself. Gaara flung more sand shuriken at Naruto, who scoffed and grabbed Sasuke by the back of his collar and ducked and weaved out of the way of the projectiles. After he had gotten through them all, he dropped Sasuke back on the branch and scoffed, pathetic. I'm slow as dirt. Did my muscles atrophy or something? I became a ninja anyway, which means I should be conditioned like a genin. I should have kept my speed at least. Gaara looked at Naruto, looking himself over after dodging with Sasuke. This angered him. It was like Naruto was ignoring his existence just like everybody else, just like everybody else. Don't ignore me. Gaara had mouths appearing all over his body as he took a deep breath and released it ahead. Fuuten Mugen Sajin Daitapa Wind Release Sandstorm Devastation. Gaara released a massive blast of air in a sandstorm in Naruto and Sasuke's direction, tearing off branches and cutting into the bark of trees as the wind died down. Gaara couldn't see Naruto or Sasuke, no sign of either. It's a shame. Gaara turned around to see Naruto standing behind him right before Naruto's fist lifted him off of the branch and sent him crashing to a lower level. Naruto crouched on the branch and watched Gaara try to stand. You had a defense that only the fastest could bypass and only the strongest could breach, and what do? You cast it away for raw power. When things get a little tough, raw power can only overwhelm skill and finesse in extreme qualities. Naruto pointed at Sasuke, who was over by Sakura Pakun and Gamakichi. You beat him in this form because he was already burned out when you transformed. He used Chidori twice here, once during your fight in the stadium, and I'm sure he tested it one time when he and Kakashi were late. If he had more shots, then you wouldn't have won. He smirked down at Gaara. I don't know what happened to me all of those years ago, but I'm not the kid that just had Kage Bunshin flying all over the place anymore. I could beat you like that, but that wouldn't be very fun. After all of this time, I can finally fight like I used to, if only a little bit. I'm still not fast enough to avoid taking hits, but I can almost assure you that however hard you hit me, a feral grin came onto Naruto's face. I'll hit you twice as hard, so let's see who can still stand up when this is all over. Naruto's hand moved unconsciously to his back before he pulled it down, clicking his teeth. Damn, that's right, I don't have a sword. Seriously, what happened to me? These phantom urges to fight like I was trained to are going to get me killed if I don't get it together. Gaara stood with a growl. You aren't stronger than me. You fight for the Uchiha. You fight for the pink-haired girl. Fighting for others makes you weak. Naruto scoffed. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. There are detailed stories of mere mortal men overcoming demons for others. The Yondaime Hokage overcame the Kyuubi no Yoko for his village. Orochimaru fights for himself. You fight for yourself, and that's why you will both lose here today, because you don't have a true purpose to fight. Naruto cracked his knuckles. But let me show you just how wrong you are. Don't blink. 1 flash tag later and Naruto's presence was gone from the area. Everyone looked around for any sign of the blonde boy who had changed from the orange loudmouth they had taken him for based on past experience. Chuckling rang out through the forest, but not from any particular area, as Naruto was projecting his voice. That little sandstorm from earlier wasn't a Fuuten jutsu. This is a Fuuten jutsu. Fuuten Repuushu wind release gale palm. A fierce gale came from the trees above, sending wind and weapons at Gaara from above. Gaara lifted his arms to block vital spots and allowed the kunai and shuriken to bury themselves into them. Gaara lowered his hands and shouted out loudly, "Is that the best you have? Uzumaki, come out and fight me. Give me a real fight. Let me feel alive." Naruto's voice rang out again in mocking laughter. If you wanted to feel alive, then you shouldn't have caught those weapons. Even with all of that power, you're still just a baby. Genin Hu, just listen and tell me what you hear. Everyone silenced themselves in order to listen for Naruto's warning. Temari's eyes widened too late to help. A hissing noise coming from Gaara was being muffled by the sandy appendage. He had caught the mishmash of ninja tools in Gaara no Temari's shout of warning did no good. It was too late for him to cast them out as a massive explosion took place in the trees, and the fireball that used to be Gaara fell to the forest floor. The others could only look on in amazement as the goofy boy in orange was systematically decimating the strongest person out of them all. Naruto's voice rang out again. Damn it, I should have just killed you. Gaara was like a puddle of melting sand on the ground as Naruto spoke. I guess my fake self has more influence over me than I thought. I should be down there killing you right now, but for old time's sake I guess I'll hit you with an attack inspired by him. Suddenly several Narutos rushed out of the foliage and kicked Gaara into the air one after another. Uzumaki as Gaara was stuck hanging in the air. A wave of orange revealed itself from the leaves above. Countless Kage Bunshin from Naruto descended with their fists and feet cocked to strike. Naruto Nisei Renden Naruto Uzumaki 2K Barrage. Naruto's Bunshin dropped an obscene amount of physical offense on Gaara's prone form, driving him back into the ground hard. Naruto and his clones littered the trees looking down at Gaara. Naruto sighed yet again. If I was at full strength he'd be a puddle in a crater right now. Someone's going to answer for this. Gaara looked up at the masses of Naruto Bunshin looking down on him. Each of them had the same uninterested look on their faces, as if they were trying to ignore him. Cold blue eyes magnified by 1000 staring down on him. There's no way. Gaara allowed the final shred of sanity and reasoning inside of him snap. There's no way I'm going to lose to a guy like that, the original. Naruto's eyes widened as Gaara's chakra spiked. Oh crap, he can transform again. Naruto was blown back hard as Gaara was completely immersed in sand swelling to the sky. Naruto's Kage Bunshin were dispelled as Gaara's towering sand smashed them asunder. Gaara ended up sticking out of the head of Shukaku, looking down on Naruto who was covered in sand. It's too late, Uzumaki, time to die. Like I said, power cleanly outclasses skill only in overwhelming quantities. Naruto sat entirely incased in Gaara's Sabaku Q. Well, this is great. I'm too weak to break it now. What? Naruto smirked as he remembered that he didn't stop learning things when he lost his memory. Arrow Senninyu might have been useful after all. Naruto bit his thumb and made a few hand signs. Gaara put out his right hand. Sabaku So's Kuchiyose no Jutsu summoning jutsu. In a massive burst of smoke, Naruto found himself seated atop the head of Gamabunta, smirking out at Gaara. You didn't think it would be that easy, did you? Naruto looked down at Gamabunta. Hey there, boss Toad, you want to help me out and take this jerk down with me? He's a little too big for me to handle alone at this time. Gamabunta directed his gaze up at Naruto. Something feels different about this Gaki. Like he isn't as frantic and spastic as he was the last time I saw him. Gamabunta huffed out smoke from his pipe. Ichibi no Shukaku no can do, kid. Why would I want to go out of my way to fight a guy like that? Naruto deadpanned the giant toad a look. I thought summons were supposed to help their summoners fight in situations like this. Naruto pointed out at Gaara. Shukaku, look at that thing. If you don't help me, then I'll end up a bloody smear on the bottom of its foot for sure. Gamabunta laughed. Tough. We haven't even had a drink yet. I can't accept you as my summoner until we share a drink together. Naruto glared down at him. You'd better be the one supplying then, because my genin ass can't afford enough liquor to get you even slightly buzzed. Gamakichi then appeared and landed on Naruto's head. Ah, help him out, Pops. I like this kid. Gamabunta looked at the smaller toad in surprise. Gamakichi, what on earth are you doing here? Gamakichi looked at his father sheepishly. I just wanted to come out and see the outside world, you know. He pointed over at Gaara. Shukaku, and then that guy tried to bully me. Our boy here kept me alive and started kicking that guy's butt, but then he cheated and got all big, and now here we are. Gamabunta glared out at the sand spirit. All right then, Gaki, you Helped out my son. I appreciate that you're alright with me. You have my support in this fight, but we're still having that drink later, you hear? Naruto stood up and nodded, his face hardening as he looked out at Gaara. Gamakichi, you're going to want to get off of my head for this next part. Gamakichi got off of Naruto's head as Gamabunta drew his tanto and held it at the ready. Whenever you're ready, boss Toad. Give him hell. Gamabunta launched forward and dug his sword into Shukaku's arm. With one mighty heave he lopped it off, dropping it uselessly onto the ground before he jumped back to his distance and stared at his opponent. Gamabunta huffed in exhaustion. That almost took everything I had, and all I took was his arm. Naruto smirked down at Gamabunta. Wow, and I thought I was out of shape. I've been out of full commission for 4 years. What's your excuse? Gamabunta eyed the boy. Watch it, brat, or I'll squash you. The smile disappeared from Naruto's face as he looked back out at their mutual foe. Kill me later, we still have a problem. Gaara looked at Naruto excitedly. Interesting. Naruto Uzumaki, I like this. This is a fantastic battle. Gaara brought his hands into the ram seal. Tanuki Niri no Jutsu, feigning sleep technique. Shukaku's star-shaped pupils spun wildly and he yelled to the sky, I'm free. Naruto kept an impassive face. He just made this a lot more difficult, didn't he? Gamabunta nodded with the boy on his head. And why wouldn't he? Alright, let's try something here. Shukaku inhaled deeply. Fuuten Renkuden wind release drilling air bullet. He launched a massive airball at Gamabunta, who prepared his own attack. Sweeten Tepodama water release liquid bullet. Naruto flew through his own hand signs. Let's give you a boost, boss Toad. Foot and Daitapa wind release great breakthrough. Naruto let out a massive crushing wind that sped up Gamabunta's water bullet, forcing it to obliterate Shukaku's attack. On contact, it continued on to collide with the demon itself, knocking it off balance and sending it to the ground. XXX Sasuke was watching the fight with envy. Naruto had seemingly hit some mental switch in his head, and now Gaara couldn't even touch him. What kind of power is this? This Naruto is completely different from the one I've been working with for so long. Temari was completely overwhelmed. She had left to find Kankuro after Gaara had fully transformed and returned. Thinking that Gaara had killed Naruto and moved along towards Konoha, she wanted to bypass him entirely and avoid his killing spree. When she returned, she was shocked to see that Naruto was not only still fighting, not only forcing Gaara into a full possession, he was winning. She and Kankuro had to check to make sure they weren't dreaming. This boy, he isn't normal. How can he keep pace with Gaara? XXX Naruto looked down at Gamabunta. So how do we end this? Gamabunta was impressed by Naruto boosting his attack. He knew it would have been a stalemate otherwise. This really isn't the same kid from last week. Gamabunta remembered that Naruto had asked him a question. We need to wake up the host, the boy on his head. You need to wake him up. Naruto frowned and grunted. Killing him would be easier? Way easier. We can just pepper him with big attacks until Gaara's a big red blotch on his forehead. He's totally exposed. Gamabunta chuckled. That's ruthless, Gaki. It's an idea that would give us more problems than answers, though I'm afraid killing the medium in the midst of a full possession could end up with the demon being freed. It already has a form to go with its soul, so it wouldn't need the host in that instance. The blonde nodded. Okay, so wake him up it is then. He furrowed his brow in thought. But all of my attacks that I could launch from here can kill him. I need you to get in close so that I can wake him. Gamabunta looked at his hands. These webbed hands of mine aren't much for grabbing a hold of things. How do you suggest I get him? Naruto scoffed. I said get close. I didn't say grab him. I can reach him myself, don't you worry. Gamabunta prepared to Charge. As Shukaku reached an upright position once more, Naruto closed his eyes to get in touch with his inner demon. XXX Naruto's Mindscape. Naruto appeared in the sewer of his Mindscape in front of the Kyuubi's prison. Naruto looked around and shook his head. Kami, this place is a dump. I didn't leave this place looking like this. Demonic laughter rang out from behind the bars in front of him. No, you didn't, Ninjin. Whoever placed the seal on you messed with your mental functioning and reverted your mind into a dump, as you can plainly see. Naruto nodded. So will it get better, because this is seriously depressing. Wait, seal? There was a seal on me. Yes, Kit, if your mind goes back to the way it was before 4 years ago, then your mindscape will return to its former state. The Kyuubi turned serious at this point. There was a seal placed on you after your disastrous mission to Otogakure. I can't tell you who did it because I was unconscious from using so much chakra to heal your wounds and keep you going until you reached the border. I woke up here. Again, needless to say, I wasn't too happy. Naruto laughed slightly. So that's why you were so pissed off when I showed up here last time. You tried to freaking eat me. You know, why didn't you say anything? Kyuubi huffed and sat down on its haunches, letting its snout touch the floor. First of all, would your other self, who had been taught to mistrust me, believe me in the first place? If I had tried to tell you about it, I would have been harmed by the seal, as would you. It was a memory seal. Whoever placed it on you placed many others on with you that coincided with one another. You forcibly broke one, the chakra restrictor, and allowed me to force a chain reaction with the rest of your mental seals to free your mind. Naruto smiled at the massive kitsune. Well, I guess I owe you one soon then, but right now could you give me a shot of your chakra for old time's sake? I need to smack down your comrade Shukaku without killing his host. The ground in Naruto's mind rumbled as the Kyuubi jumped to its feet, tails waving behind it excitedly. Really, you need my help again after so long? Alright then, Kit, why not? I just wish I could experience the fight through your eyes and other senses like I used to. Naruto smirked as the red chakra engulfed his body. Well, after we survive this, I'll set up my mind the way it used to be. So you can. It's the least I can do. I missed being so badass. Naruto slowly faded from his mindscape as the Kyuubi lay back down on the ground. I did too, Kit, I did too. XXX Naruto's eyes shot open as his body filled with the Kyuubi's chakra. Almost simultaneously, Gamabunta charged at Shukaku. As the two massive creatures got closer, they both shot off their projectile attacks again. Naruto judged the distance just as the smoke from the collision of attacks rose. This is close enough, I guess. Naruto crouched deeply and propelled himself high over Gamabunta's head, leaping over the explosion and posturing himself above Shukaku's head. Naruto hovered overhead for a second before forcing wind chakra out through his hands, accelerating his descent. This is going to be amazing. Naruto fell at high speed, aiming for Gaara, who was stuck sleeping on Shukaku's head. Wake up, you pasty bastard. Naruto delivered a double stomp right to the top of Gaara's head, driving him completely through the Shukaku figure, forcing it to collapse on itself as they crashed to the ground. Amid a deafening roar as the sand crashed around the trees, Gamabunta stood slack-jawed at Naruto's vicious, reckless attack on Shukaku. The kid jumped from the relative safety of his head 30 feet higher than he already was towards a crazed homicidal demon. The more amazing thing was that it actually worked. He hit Gaara with the force of his body weight focused into his feet from 30 feet above his head, making the impact more intense by using wind chakra to send him down faster. After the attack, he softened his landing considerably after he destroyed the Shukaku as he landed in sand that had been tenderized by his previous attack. Gamabunta was broken from his musing by his son. I like that kid Pops, he's insane, can I hang out with him more often? Gamabunta chuckled, if he allows it. Gamakichi Jiraiya sure picked an interesting one this time. I'll be watching you, Naruto. Uzumaki. Naruto stood up and shook the sand off of his body, dragging Gaara out with him and dropping him on the ground, watching him look up at him in fear. Stay away from me, I don't want to die. Naruto slapped Gaara across the back of his head. Act like a shinobi, damn it, we deal in death for a living, besides I'm not going to kill you, you're a weapon like me. He dropped Gaara onto the grass and walked away slightly. You're a weapon that I broke already, and while you can be repaired most of the time, a repaired weapon is easier to break a second time around. He turned back to look at Gaara, his cold blue eyes turned back to their formerly bright nature. I'll beat you down every time you try to harm me or anyone in my village, because only when you fight to protect and defend others can you be powerful and find the strength to push beyond your limits. Naruto looked up to the trees. Sasuke, the Uchiha in question, landed by his side. Is Sakura-chan safe? Was I fast enough? Sasuke nodded. Yeah, Naruto, you saved her. Naruto looked back at Gaara just as his siblings landed and prepared for a fight. Naruto shook his head at the two Suna ninja. I just beat the guy that terrorized you since he was 6, and I still have enough chakra that I'm gonna sprint back to Konoha and finish up the battle there. You both already got your asses kicked by this guy and Shino, and he looks like he's ready to go another round. Do really think you can beat us? If you were stupid enough to attack us. Kankuro and Tamari bristled at Naruto's nonchalant threat as he shrugged. Fine, be that way, we'll just knock you out and drag you to the village, and by we, I mean them. Naruto pointed behind them as two Kage Bunshin bashed them in the back of their heads with the blunt end of their kunai. Naruto looked back at Sasuke. Alright Teme, go get Sakura-chan and Pakun and we'll get out of here. We still have a battle to fight. Sasuke went to gather up Sakura as Naruto took to tying up the Suna ninja and hoisting them up on his and his Bunshin's shoulders as they set off through the trees. Naruto mentally berated himself. How could I let myself be caught? Damn it, if I had never been sealed, then I would have been able to warn Danzo that Orochimaru was planning an invasion and amassing forces. I hope things aren't as bad as they seemed at the stadium. XXX Konohagakure. Around the center of town, Jiraiya stood atop the head of his massive toad summon as he watched Konoha forces engaging the Suna and Oto forces. Despite the fact that they had driven the enemy out of heart of the city, the enemy had been putting up a dogged fight. Suddenly Ibiki landed atop the toad's head. Jiraiya-sama. Jiraiya put up his telescope and turned to face him. Ibiki report. Jiraiya-sama, our forces were caught in several ambushes as they chased the enemy forces out of the village. They ended up getting caught in a crossfire by some of Otogakure's ninja they had held back. Jiraiya groaned. They would win, but such an unnecessary loss of life was unsettling. Just as he was about to try and switch the topic, he saw Ibiki smile. But when they were closing in on our forces, they ended up getting sacked by a lone ninja of Konoha wearing bright orange, if they saw correctly. He was moving too fast for some of them to catch. Jiraiya's eyes widened. There's only one kid I know that is color blind enough to run around this place in orange. Ibiki nodded. At the same time, a Kage Bunshin of Uzumaki and Sasuke Uchiha arrived at the hospital with their female teammate, and on the other side of town he delivered the children of the Kage to a makeshift POW site in good condition too. Ibiki scratched under his bandana. I saw how good the kid could be during his fight with the Hyuga, but I never would have guessed that he was good enough to take down a squad like that. Ibiki, you shouldn't talk about me like I'm not there. They both whipped around to see Naruto tapping his foot impatiently. although I guess you didn't know I was here. Geez, if I was an assassin you'd both be dead. Jiraiya looked at Naruto oddly. He couldn't sense his usual restless aura and he had snuck up on him. Gaki, what happened to your jacket and what's with that scar on your face? Naruto had ditched his orange jumpsuit jacket and left himself in his black t-shirt. I tossed that bulky piece of crap so I could move faster to get here without much trouble and I got this scar. Years ago someone put a bunch of seals on me that did a lot of stuff to me. Hiding that scar must have been one. Naruto saw Jiraiya flinch when he spoke about the seals. We can talk about that later. We will talk about that later, Datbeo. Ibiki gasped as he looked out over the buildings and saw Orochimaru being whisked away by the sound. Naruto growled and crouched down like a track runner preparing to take off in hot pursuit until Jiraiya grabbed his collar. You're not fresh, kid. You can't take Orochimaru and his entire force of bodyguards alone. Naruto looked at him blankly. I'm not alone. You should be as strong as he is, right? And Ibiki can help me beat his entourage and help you if he's running away. Then that means he knows he lost today and he might be hurt. We can turn his retreat into a rout and finish this here. Jiraiya was about to respond just as a cloaked Anbu landed on the toad, bowing to Jiraiya. Jiraiya-sama, it's about Sandaime-sama. Jiraiya grinned widely. So Sarutobi-sensei sent the old snake back to his hole, did he? The Anbu flinched. Under his mask, Hokage-sama was killed in combat against Orochimaru. The three other ninja stood in stunned silence atop the toad as the sounds of battle still rang out into the air. Naruto looked to Jiraiya, who looked down at him. That's enough death for one day, kid. It's time to regroup and mourn. Naruto said nothing and followed Jiraiya back to the Chunin exam stadium. He could get his answers later. He had nothing but time now. Belonged to the entire village as a whole. Naruto was far more ornery than usual as he partook in the usual D-rank missions that genin teams like Team 7 got, while part of him knew that this was truly necessary at this point in time, seeing as how the village was getting over the damage incurred during the invasion of Otto and Tsunade. The part of him that was locked away at the age of 8 that was used to missions that could end with him being killed, and the brash childish part of him that resurfaced after his memory had been sealed and longed for missions with potential for action like that. With the knowledge of his sealing, Naruto was able to sort out what memories were fake and which were his own. It helped that the genjutsu seal that was placed on him to change his appearance was broken, revealing the numerous battle scars that littered his body. From his time in Nei, it really helped having a visible association to certain memories. His first night in his apartment after the invasion was for the most part spent in front of a mirror, repeating the line, "Oh, I remember getting that one," over and over throughout the evening. Over the course of the next 2 weeks he had to adjust to just being a normal genin with a true elite's mindset. Tora was lucky that she hadn't tried to run away since the invasion, or Naruto might have killed her. Retrieving her, accidentally of course, his rapport with his team, whatever he might have had, shifted tumultuously after the Chunin exams. Naruto's thoughts on Sakura had changed to a clearer line of thought. The girl thought he was useless for the most part, and while compared to how he was supposed to be, she was right. It stood to reason that even grossly handicapped as he had been, he had still been vastly superior to her when it came to the ninja arts. While he may have been a goofy annoyance while he had been a genin, he had still been nothing but pleasant to the girl and had given his all. At every corner, her habit of fawning over the Uchiha and downplaying anything Naruto accomplished grated on his nerves. At this point, Naruto ruthlessly crushed his mental facilities that she was a good person and that he had romantic interest in her, because when it came to him she was a bitch. She was his teammate that didn't really mean they had to be close, he just had to tolerate her and work with her to accomplish his mission. He didn't see anything pleasant about trying to associate with her outside of missions. Sasuke had taken to the habit of staring at him and trying to verbally provoke him when he offered any input into their missions. Sasuke had been feeling inadequate after seeing how Naruto not only saved him from Gaara, he had dispatched Gaara handily without too much effort, captured the Kage's children swiftly thereafter, and headed back to Konoha and routed an auto ambush against a Konoha squadron. This led to now he had been trying to goad Naruto into a fight so that he could really test his own capacities against the blonde, but not only was there no time for sparring as they didn't have team training while rebuilding the village, Naruto left so quickly after the day's work was done that Sasuke couldn't follow him, and he was never able to trail the boy for too long before losing him. Kakashi had noticed quite a few changes in his blonde student since he had let him go during the invasion. While the scar over his eye was the most glaring one, his attitude was another. He didn't try to keep his team's spirits up with indomitable brightness. He still cracked jokes, and his overall timing was vastly superior now, Kakashi had to admit, but they were bright flashes in an otherwise dreary day of rooting through Konoha's rubble. Naruto no longer took to calling him Kakashi-sensei when he reprimanded Naruto on this habit he had seemingly picked up. Naruto responded by saying that he hadn't taught Naruto anything other than tree climbing, and he technically learned how to do that years ago. He just forgot. Kakashi noted the bitter tone in Naruto's voice when he said, "forgot," but didn't press too much. He figured that Naruto was still bitter from being cast aside during the Chunin exams. The differences in Naruto's gate actions on missions and how he now treated his teammates showed him that there was a vast change in Naruto that he couldn't pinpoint exactly. He watched Naruto drop another stack of wood by the building that his team was working on at the moment and walk off again to grab more. There was something he was missing about this. XXX Team 7 had been dismissed for the day, and Naruto had taken to wandering around Konoha. He had taken to treating the villagers with the same apathy and looks of annoyance that they gave him. He didn't care about them. He was in a bad enough mood as it was. He had been unable to find Danzo since the invasion ended. In his haste to track his trainer down and report back to him, as he technically never failed or completed his mission, he had found that the older base for Nei had been abandoned. Cursing the old cripple out in his head, he realized just how difficult it truly was to find Danzo when he didn't already know where he would be. You'd think there would only be so many places that you could hide a group like Nei in this village. Naruto understood things from both sides of the fence. He understood how Sarutobi disliked a secret branch of the military that he didn't directly control running rampant under his nose. It wasn't good for a supposed military dictatorship as Konoha was supposed to be to have something like that among them. It was unnerving to say the very least, but Naruto knew that if he truly knew that honestly, Danzo only had around 20-25 well-trained ninja including himself compared to Konoha's forces. It was simply a drop in the bucket, and while Konoha's true forces had a never-ending supply of recruits and potential, only certain types ever had a chance in Nei, and they weren't readily replaceable. Nei took Konoha's dirty missions, the jobs that somebody had to do, the kind of stuff that stepped on people's toes on the large scale of things, but if they never took place then it would expose Konoha's back to the lions, the killings that Konoha couldn't be caught having any hand in, the alliances that could substantially benefit Konoha but that had less than moral bases. There was a reason that the seemingly most powerful village in the nations didn't have too many problems regularly compared to the other. Sarutobi directly chose not to accept certain missions for the sake that they could be Seen as an aggressive move on Konoha's part, Danzo took these missions for Nei had to be better than the majority of other ninja simply for the sheer difficulty that their missions entailed. There were no D-rank missions, hell there weren't even any C-ranked missions. Everything you did in Nei was B rank and up. If you weren't ready, then you trained and drilled until you were no other way about it. If you couldn't cut it after all of the things you were put through until that point, then you died. Namelessly, facelessly, and miles away from home, he needed to find Danzo. He knew that the second he actually put on Konoha's Hite 8, he was basically no longer Ni's shinobi, but he still had the mindset of completing his mission. He also wanted to find out exactly what the hell happened to him. If anyone knew Danzo did, his thoughts then drifted to the mission he had been tasked with as he clenched his fists, his emotional nature spilling out. If only he had gotten back sooner, if only he hadn't stuck around for so long, if only somebody didn't get a wild hair in their ass and sabotage Otogakure's information department with explosives. If only all of those things hadn't happened, then he would have been able to return and send word on Otto's plans. He had found everything. He found that it was being run by Orochimaru. He found that they had a then-rookie Konoha genin Kabuto Yakushi as his lead spy. He found that Orochimaru had finished his immortality jutsu. He'd even had the misfortune of seeing it being performed. He couldn't eat for the rest of the week afterwards. He even knew Orochimaru's main ambition for coming, and when he saw the markings on Sasuke during the fight with Gaara, he mentally kicked a pothole into his ass. Naruto's eyes panned around the village as he walked all of the people taking part in the restoration of their homes. If he had broken the seal on himself even a day sooner, how much loss of life could have been diverted? How many lives need not have been lost? Could the Sandaime have been able to take the proper precautions to acutely prepare for Orochimaru? Accordingly, he looked up at the Hokage monument as his thoughts drifted to the third face from the left. He had gotten much closer to the old man after he had been sealed. His mind had almost reverted back to its 4-year-old state, and he reached out to the only person he really knew. Even trying to bury his emotions, he still felt a faint sting at his eyes that he had to push back. He had to put his thoughts on the back burner for now as he saw Jiraiya leaning against a fence looking at him. Naruto strode up to his side and spoke coolly. "So what do you need from a lowly little genin like me?" Arrow Senin. Jiraiya pushed himself off of the wall. "I want you to come with me to find someone." Naruto raised his eyebrow. "Aren't you the Hokage now?" Jiraiya let out a short laugh. "Those old goats wanted me to take up the spot, but I have too much on my plate to just do so like that." Naruto headed past him towards his apartment. "Then I'm not going. I'm not some escort or bodyguard. I'm a shinobi. If this isn't an order from my higher-ups, then I'm not volunteering for this. I can spend my time better by helping to rebuild, getting back to my old level of skill and finding out who put those goddamn seals on me." Jiraiya caught up with him quickly and placed a hand on his shoulder. "Well, the other genin can help rebuild, and I was going to teach you a jutsu that makes Chidori look like child's play, and those seals, I might know something about that." Naruto looked at him. "Okay, you've got me on the rebuilding, and did you hear what I said? I need to get back to my old skill level 1. Don't need a jutsu, I have enough of those, I just can't use them right now. I need to get back to my old speed and strength. First and foremost, I felt weak like an infant and moved like a snail during the invasion." Naruto's eyes shone as he absorbed the last of what Jiraiya said. "And you're damn right you know something about my seals. You're telling me whether I choose to go or not. You're just lucky that it would probably be easier to just go with you, that and I'm bored around here." Jiraiya grinned at him. "Well, let's go and get you packed. We'll leave immediately." Naruto pulled out 4 scrolls. "I already have everything here. I always keep supplies for a long mission on Me at all times, you never know when you'll get called away. He placed them back into the pockets of his jacket. This big bright piece of crap is good for something, I suppose. Jiraiya laughed loudly. If you hate it, then why wear it? Naruto's eye twitched. When I went home after the battle to look for clothes, this was the closest thing to shinobi gear I had in my closet. What the hell did they do to me? I wouldn't be caught dead in this. How did I live for as long as I did wearing this eyesore? Jiraiya laughed again, getting his chuckles out of seeing the boy tear himself down. Jiraiya reached into his pocket and placed some bills in Naruto's hand. I'll tell you what, Gaki, I'll give you 2 hours to go and get yourself outfitted. Meet me at the main gate then and we'll take off. Naruto let a smile cross his face as he turned to head back towards the market district. He waved back at Jiraiya and pocketed the cash. XXX. Naruto wandered through the market district looking around while the Naruto that had become a genin would simply enter a shop and hope he didn't get ripped off. This Naruto was sick of being broke all of the time and was running through his head all of the shinobi shops that had done it to him. That place did it, that place did it, that place won't even let me in to do it. Naruto had gotten his tools from old scavenging habits. It amazed him how many tools were wasted by ninja just during training. Even back when he was little, he cultivated his pack rat habit. Back when he was first being trained by Danzo, storing all of the usable things he could find for himself as a sort of surplus and handing the broken and unusable stuff to Nee's armory to be melted down and remade. Apparently he continued that little habit when he had been sealed as well, because he still had tons of weapons sitting inside one of his closets in the apartment. Naruto stopped at a rather plain-looking shop and, having no memory of ever being in there, he opted to give it a shot. XXX. Tenten yawned as she sat at the counter of the weapons shop her family owned. She wasn't having a good overall month. She had gotten destroyed in the preliminary rounds of the Chunin exam by that Suna Kunoichi Tamari and was forced out of contention. She had decided to help her teammate Neji train for the final exam for the month in between tests, and had even gone to the competition to watch him mop up the competition. Things don't always work out like that, huh? She then had to watch him be utterly beaten by the unassuming blonde kid that was on the same team as the Uchiha, the dead last of the class under hers. He cut down his Juken and not only got up from Neji's best techniques and shrugged them off, he reopened his tenketsu after they had been sealed off. He even had enough strength afterwards to run around the stadium in celebration after he won. Then she ended up being put under a genjutsu that engulfed the stadium and missed the invasion of Otto and Suna. After the invasion was over, she spent more time at her family's shop, seeing as her sensei was spending a lot of time at the hospital with her green-clad teammate Rock Lee due to his grievous injuries, but it wasn't busy, seeing as how there weren't a lot of ninja that needed to stock up for missions as they were helping with the reconstruction. So here she sat bored. Yep, not a good month overall. One could say the bell to the store rang, signifying a potential customer. Hello, welcome to. As Tenten's eyes drifted to the door, she saw the very same blonde kid that had beaten her teammate looking around her shop. Hey. Naruto turned to face her curiously, realization spread over his face. Oh, hi there, Tenten, right? As she looked at his inquisitive face, she noted the scar sitting over his right eye. Huh, that's new, she pointed out at him accusingly. You're the kid that beat Neji. The tone of her voice stated it like he had committed some kind of crime. Naruto tilted his eyebrow. My name is Naruto, and don't look so shocked. Was I supposed to let him win or something? Tenten was taken aback by his calm answer. She was conditioned from seeing him throughout the exams to expect a loud, hot-headed response. It's not that, it's just that you really weren't expected to win then. Damn idiot persona. It just had to wreck his standing in the eyes of the many. Oh well, he liked to be surprising anyway, Naruto sighed. And that is why you have to learn to expect the worst in most cases. Because then you can only be pleasantly surprised. Naruto remembered Danzo or other elder nei operatives saying that to him a lot back in the day. Then they would usually hit him or something. Stupid emotional conditioning. Tenten noticed the scar over his eye and found herself curious. How did you get that scar? Did you get it during the invasion? Naruto waved off her question. It's a long story that I'm not even sure of and that you wouldn't believe if I told you. Don't worry about it. Do you sell shinobi clothes here? She nodded and pointed over in the correct direction. Naruto thanked her and went on over. Tenten watched silently as he walked over to the clothing section of her store and rifled through the selection. Apparently he was getting rid of that sense-offending jumpsuit on his back. He nodded as he pulled out a set of shirts and a few pairs of pants. He went into a changing room and came out a moment later in a dark blue muscle shirt and dark blue loose pants tied at the ankles with wraps. He set the extras on the counter and went back into the accessories section and grabbed some black bracers that wrapped around his forearm entirely. As he walked back to the counter, he stopped as he came across the swords. He stared long and hard for a moment until he pulled down a ninjutsu and unsheathed it, looking it over and testing the balance. Before shrugging and walking back to the counter with a grin, he set the sword down and looked up. Do you have something to secure this on my back? Tenten nodded and reached down behind the counter to grab a strap for him to use. So how much is all of this? He seemingly gave her a set appraising look as she tallied it up. Tenten looked over what he bought and looked at him. That will all come to 68,500 ryo. Tenten watched him switch moods apparently as he cringed jokingly and pull out his wallet and money he had in his pocket. He brightened up after hearing the price of his new equipment. Naruto chuckled as he gave her the necessary funds. This'll clean me out, but it's necessary. He strapped on the sword and placed the bracers on his forearms. Tenten watched him finish outfitting himself and huffed. Do you even know how to use that sword on your back? Naruto shifted the ninjutsu into a comfortable position on his back. I'm an old hand at it. It's time for me to get back into practice with kenjutsu. I was no slouch. I should say I might be rusty if anything. Naruto quickly drew his sword for a few test slashes and shifted through a few regulation Anbu stances before resheathing it. I think I'll be fine. Tenten's eyes gleamed for a second. You wouldn't happen to be interested in a spar, would you? Naruto smiled. Yeah, sure, why not? I don't have anyone to practice with anyway. I have to leave right now. Thought I might look you up when I get back. Tenten smiled at him as he moved towards the door. I think I'd like that, Naruto. Naruto stopped at the door and turned around. I left the jumpsuit in the back. Feel free to burn it at your leisure, like on your break or something. I still have a closet full of them to get rid of. Bye, Tenten. Tenten waved goodbye as he left the store. She furrowed her brow in thought. How can a guy change like that in 2 weeks? XXX. Jiraiya noticed a familiar mop of blonde hair heading towards the main gate. As he got closer, he whistled at Naruto's appearance. Looking dapper, kid. Naruto looked up at him and grinned. It's easier to get girls if you don't blind them when they look at you. Jiraiya patted him on the back as they began walking through the gate. Well said, Gaki. As they walked on, Naruto eventually sighed and looked up at Jiraiya through half-lidded eyes. Alright, we're far enough from Konoha that if I don't like what you have to say, I can kill you and no one can stop me. Tell me what you know about my seal. Jiraiya tried to be funny. Well, the Shiki Fusion is meant to hold back the Kyuubi. Naruto gripped his sword as he glared at him. Don't be an ass about this. I'm serious. What happened to me? Jiraiya sighed. Okay, but if I tell you this, then you have to wait until I'm through Explaining before you try to gut me deal. Naruto kept up his glare but nodded. Jiraiya began. Alright, you know your little trip to Ta no Kuni. I'm the one that found you. I was there too. Investigating rumors on Otogakure. When I left I decided to torch their files stuff on Orochimaru's bloodline research, jutsu development, things like that. Naruto's eyes widened. He unsheathed his sword and took a swing at Jiraiya in anger, forcing the man to jump back. Hey brat, I said, wait until I was done. Naruto pointed at him angrily. You dumb old bastard, you were the one that turned the heat onto me. Don't you know the first thing about infiltration? Never let the enemy know you were there. Jiraiya rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. Hey, in my defense, I didn't know you were there. Naruto growled menacingly. That was the whole point. Jiraiya got back on track as Naruto sheathed his sword. Anyway, when I got you back, me and Sarutobi-sensei found that you were a part of a group of ninja led by a man high up in Konoha's politics. Naruto nodded. Yane led by Danzo. Jiraiya pulled a double take to look at Naruto. You're admitting it exists? Wait. You're talking about it? Naruto sighed. Yes, Ero Sennin, I swear I kept telling Danzo it was the second worst kept secret, almost as bad as me being the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. The fact that Sarutobi Gigi and you both knew about it proved that, and Danzo never put any seals on me. I was too much of a high-profile figure to make into a mindless drone. I mean, at first he tried, but he quit after a while. Jiraiya looked at him oddly. Wait, so you always had your sense of self? You weren't a mindless drone, he just trained you? Naruto looked up at the man. Yeah, and anyway, I couldn't tell you anything currently relevant about Ne, even if I wanted to anyway, seeing as how I haven't been there in 4 years. The old cripple probably cut his losses and let me go. It's all he could have done. Trying to get me back and break the seal might have been too risky. Jiraiya looked down. We never had to seal him. He's right. As long as we kept a tight watch on him, he couldn't have gone back to Danzo. Jiraiya gulped. So about the sealing. Listen, Naruto, when me and Sarutobi-sensei sealed you, we thought you. Naruto's blue eyes snapped up at Jiraiya's face. You and Sarutobi-sensei? You and the old man were the ones that sealed me. Naruto didn't wait for a response. You asshole, you could have waited for me to wake up and explain what was going on to both of you. Instead, you left me with the mindset of a 4-year-old. I was mentally behind everybody else by 4 years. Jiraiya already knew that they had messed up back when they first sealed him, but it still sucked to have it thrown back at him. We didn't know what you would do when you woke up. We didn't know how you would react. We were just running damage control as quickly as we could. Naruto shook his head angrily. There was no damage control to run all this time. I'm a shadow of my former self. My chakra control is shit. I have a fraction of the speed I used to have. Why, I still trained hard even after I was sealed. I should have kept that speed. Jiraiya rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. I kind of put a gravity seal on you too. Sorry. I knew it. I knew I couldn't have been that slow naturally. Kami, I felt like I was waiting in jelly. Naruto undid his hite-8 to reveal his forehead. Take the seal off, damn it. Jiraiya made a few hand seals and placed his hand on Naruto's head. Fuin Kai, a glyph of a seal, appeared and faded from Naruto's head. He tested his body's functions with some short motions. Okay, I feel better now? Jiraiya felt the need to keep explaining. Naruto just kept walking. I don't want to hear anymore right now. I don't think I can take much more of this story before I feel the need to hurt you. You guys almost killed my career, you know that. Come on, let's get to a town. XXX. Jiraiya and Naruto had gotten a hotel for the night in a town not far off. Upon arriving, Jiraiya had gone off gallivanting after some woman who showed a little interest in him. This suited Naruto Just fine, as he didn't really want to be around Jiraiya at the moment anyway. Naruto took himself up to their room and laid down on one of the beds. He had a whole new set of things to think about. Was Hiruzen close to him only because he had gotten out from under his watch once, or was it truly legitimate when he showed up at the ceremony for Konoha's fallen ninja the day after the invasion? He had gone up to the Sandame's memorial and he didn't know what to feel. He shed not one tear. His head was jumbled enough at the time. He was still sorting through his mind to figure out what was factual and what was fabrication. He shook his head free of that thought, putting his training under Danzo into use. He was a ninja, and while it was seemingly a simple mission, it was still a mission, and he needed a clear mind to go through it successfully. Naruto felt a pair of powerful presences coming closer to his door. They were hiding their chakra levels, but it was noticeable that they were considerably strong now. The side of him that had been out and about for the last 4 years wanted to confront them, see what they wanted, and if necessary kick their asses. Unfortunately for that line of thought, rational Naruto was in control at the moment. He darted out of bed and leapt out of the window to find Jiraiya fighting two opponents that were potentially overwhelming in strength. For no reason didn't really appeal to him after just starting to get himself back into fighting condition. He knew they wanted him for some kind of unpleasantness, because in Naruto's life experiences, for the most part, new meetings equaled lots of pain and trouble. Naruto dashed along the rooftops until he reached the outskirts of town. Naruto bit his thumb and summoned a toad, not even giving it time to speak. Naruto belted out an order: "Go find Jiraiya, tell him to find me as fast as he freaking can, or I'm screwed." "Okay." The toad nodded and ran back into town to find Jiraiya. Naruto sighed and turned around slowly. "I know you're there, come out already. Save us all some time here." Two figures in black cloaks with red clouds appeared, both donning straw hats. Naruto sighed at the sight of the familiar red eyes signifying Sharingan. Of course it would be a guy like Itachi Uchiha after me. The other figure chuckled and removed his hat to reveal a blue-haired, blue-skinned man. "It looks like you're still famous in that village of yours, Itachi." Naruto smacked his forehead. "And Kisame Hoshigaki. What a fantastic day. The hits just keep on coming." He set himself into a ready stance. "Who else do we have coming? You guys happen to have another S-ranked cameo coming from the woodwork." Kisame scoffed at the sight of Naruto's small frame. Who knew the Kyuubi Jinchuriki would be such a runt? "Itachi, should I cut off one of his legs to make sure he can't run away again?" Itachi stepped forward, red eyes spinning. "Please come with us, Naruto-kun." Naruto sighed and brought his hands together. "Kai, come on now, I'm a kid, but don't insult me like that. I'm not that easy to yoke into oppression, you know." Kisame reached for the sword on his back. "Itachi, this kid is mouthy, let me handle him. Samahada can just taste his chakra from here." Itachi stared at Naruto unblinking. "Very well, don't go overboard and kill him. Leader Sama needs the Jinchuriki alive." Naruto narrowed his eyes. "Two powerful guys like this want me alive? They won't fight to kill, they can't, but I don't have that kind of restriction here, and all I have to do is wait for Ero Sennin to show up. Even if the toad I sent is slow or can't find him once the fight starts, it shouldn't take him too long to get here." Naruto drew his ninjutsu and in the blink of an eye was at Kisame's throat, who had brought Samahada down to parry his blade. "You're pretty fast, Gaki." Naruto pushed with his sword. "I used to be faster." He felt Kisame pushing him back and grunted, "Used to be stronger too." Kisame brought down his massive weapon on Naruto's shoulder and pulled back, slicing deeply into his shoulder before kicking the boy off. Naruto picked himself up off the ground. I seriously need to whip my ass back into shape. Fucking seal. This ain't gonna cut it, Kisame grinned maniacally as he rushed Naruto and swung at him with his sword. Naruto ducked low and swiped at Kisame's feet in response. Kisame uncorked a kick at the ducking Naruto's head. Naruto saw it coming and rolled out of the way. Man, I'm glad Ero Sennin had the common sense to at least take the stupid gravity seal off of me. I'd be dead meat otherwise. Naruto sheathed his sword back into the scabbard on his back, going blade to blade with one on the 7 swordsmen of the mist. Label me the idiot of the day. Itachi walked a few steps up. You're better than our intel anticipated, Naruto-kun. It was said that you were a dead last genin level shinobi. You've shown much surprising skill. Naruto huffed as he ignored the dripping wound spanning his shoulder. Yeah, well, there's no such thing as perfect intel, indeed. Itachi removed his own hat to look at Naruto. This battle is unnecessary, Naruto-kun. Just come with us. You cannot defeat us both at your current level. Naruto glared at the rogue Uchiha and the shark-like Kisame. They're right. I couldn't beat these two like this. If they were here to kill me. And I don't even have to win. All I have to do is last long enough for some help. Naruto smiled as he felt his wound begin to pulse with a familiar sensation. Apparently breaking the seal inspired the Kyuubi to stay awake more often again. Good, now if only he had found the time to set up his old arrangements with the powerful Kitsune, then he could just have Kyuubi help him rampage on their asses and be done with it. There was time to think about that later. He had a tall order ahead of him. Here Kisame and Itachi covered each other's weaknesses extremely well. What Kisame lacked in long-range ninjutsu, potent genjutsu, and tactical finesse and patience, Itachi more than made up for. Vice versa for Itachi and his close-range skills. Naruto didn't think he could win in close with Itachi anyway. That damnable Sharingan would give away his every move, unless Itachi walked ahead and called Kisame back. Kisame, I would like to test Naruto-kun for a bit. Stay back for a moment. Naruto would have grinned from ear to ear if it wouldn't have looked so suspicious. Itachi and Kisame both think he's weak. Itachi will probably let the genin in close to humor him. That's where he would get his chance. He needed to abandon all logical reason and just flow. The only way to bypass the Sharingan was to simply move faster than the body could adjust to, as if that would work on someone like Itachi. However, if Itachi could anticipate his movements, then what would happen if even Naruto didn't know what he would do next? It would be a pain to try fighting his own muscle memory and his own instincts just to attempt a new strategy on the fly. Sounds like something his jumpsuit wearing self would try. But then again, why the fuck not? Even an idiot can come up with some masterful gems of ideas every once in a while, right? Naruto ran in and ducked, looking to jump when in range of Itachi, but as he crouched, spontaneous inspiration came to him. Instead of jumping high as he had crouched to do, he tumbled forward and rolled through. This random act got him inside of Itachi's guard. Now what as he saw Itachi move his arms to react to any action he could take from this point. In a split second, Naruto once again listened to the most random thing he could think of. He tilted his head up and spit directly in Itachi Uchiha's face. Now at this time, if he wasn't one already in a fight that he knew wasn't going to be pleasant if it dragged out, and that's if he actually believed he had a snowball's chance in hell of actually winning said fight in the first place, too, flying by the seat of his pants too fast to take into account what he was actually doing. After all, if he wasn't a bloody mess on the ground yet, that had to count for something, right? And 3, primarily trained to not show any emotion or feeling in combat against any enemy, even if pressed with insurmountable odds. In Itachi Uchiha was damn insurmountable for a handicapped former NA operative 4 years out of the game. If it weren't for all of that, then he might have had the logical inclination to shit his pants. When he saw that loogie make contact right on Itachi's left brow, and it worked too, because from the look on Itachi's face he damn sure never saw that as a viable option against him in the middle of a fight. Itachi froze in place, giving his diminutive adversary the opportunity to launch a vicious jumping snap kick to the side of his head, sending him flying back to his partner. The combination of seeing a 12-year-old kid spit into Itachi fucking Uchiha's face and then seeing said kid dropkick Itachi Uchiha back 15 yards left Kisami's jaw quite slacked. Kisame pointed dumbly at Itachi as he watched him rise to his feet. Itachi. You've got a little something right there. Kisame felt a shiver go down his spine as Itachi sent his Sharingan glare on his as he wiped his dripping brow. You got it. The adrenaline from Naruto's little improv session wore off as he got distance and waited for Itachi's response. Naruto attempted a little denial therapy. Maybe he isn't as pissed as I thought. He's a former Anbu. Those guys get bodily fluids on them all the time. A little spit didn't even faze that guy. Itachi turning a downright murderous look at him, spinning Sharingan. Enhanced, of course. Perished the thought that he was getting out of this alive without missing some important body parts, being the highly trained professional he had been raised to be in his formulative years. Naruto prayed to the skies above for even the slightest diversion, anything that could tear Itachi's attention away from him for even a moment would be a gift from Kami herself. Itachi Uchiha. Naruto turned to find Sasuke standing shortly away, eyes fixed on his older brother. You've told me to live my life with hatred in order to get strong enough to kill you. Well, that day has come. If he wasn't such a highly trained warrior, and if he wasn't in the middle of a serious high-tension situation, Naruto could have broken down and cried in sweet relief. Those two reasons combined were the only reasons he didn't. Naruto knew there was no I in team, but sorry Sasuke, someone had to take one for the team today, and on this day Naruto was more than willing to spell team with an I. Naruto slumped against a tree and sat down as he saw Jiraiya talking to Maida guy with Sasuke over his shoulder. Itachi had really done a number on that kid, and Naruto knew it was mostly his fault, but defended himself with the fact that Sasuke either didn't notice or didn't care that Itachi was in such a pissy mood. And what kind of genin tries to stay and fight Itachi Uchiha by choice? Itachi looked pissed off when he beat Sasuke too. Naruto called his bad on that. Naruto had gotten his ass saved by Sasuke's assistance, and he knew it had given Jiraiya enough time to find him and drive the nuke nin duo off before they could refocus on him. Thank goodness the old sage could back up all of that posturing with skill. Gaki, come over here. Naruto stood and walked over to Jiraiya and Guy. While he was pissed off at Jiraiya, he had to admit without his timely interference he would have gotten turned into hamburger. Guy gave Naruto a blinding smile as he got close. Yash, Naruto-kun, you have certainly shown yourself to be quite flushed with the power of youth today, holding off those two like you did. Naruto looked at Guy strangely. Thanks, Guy-san. I was useless, though they could have killed me whenever they wanted. They needed me alive. Guy shook his head, smile still in place. And you are alive, are you not? And that means you have another day to get stronger, another day to prepare yourself and make sure this doesn't happen again. Naruto smiled faintly. You're right, I need to worry about getting ready for the next time something like this happens. Naruto clenched his fists. There's no way that guys like that are going to get the drop on me ever again. Guy shifted Sasuke on his shoulders. Well, I do hope that you two are successful in your mission. We could use her expertise for more than just Sasuke-kun here. Kakashi got hit as well. Naruto looked at Guy. Kakashi made eye contact. Guy nodded and began Reaching for something on his person, Jiraiya grabbed Naruto by his shoulder. We should go, kid. We'll lose the trail if we stay after all of this, Naruto grunted as Jiraiya pulled him away. Later. Guy-san, tell Rock Lee and Tenten I said hi. Guy gave him a thumbs up and a smile in return before turning to blaze a trail back to Konoha. Naruto noticed Jiraiya was hurrying him away. Why are you pulling me so fast? Arrow Senin. Jiraiya looked down and back out at the road ahead. He was going to give you one of those god-awful jumpsuits, kid. There was no way I was letting you go back to such horrendous clothing after you just started looking decent. Naruto scoffed and slapped Jiraiya's hand off of his shoulder. Don't touch me, you aren't off of the hook yet. You and the old man screwed me over. I'm a joke in Konoha these days because of what you guys did. Itachi and Kisame treated me like a piece of crap back there, and while it helped keep me alive and out of their hands, it was insulting. Naruto grumbled as he stomped down the road. I've got at least 2 S-rank Nukenin after me, and I'm a sitting duck if they decide to get serious on me. We seriously need to finish this mission so I can work on getting back up to snuff. Jiraiya shook his head as they traversed the roads. XXX. Naruto had calmed down over the course of the next few days. He was still incredibly testy due to still not finding any time to train himself properly. Jiraiya tried to placate him by saying he had proven himself to be far stronger than a genin should be. Naruto countered by blankly stating that he wasn't supposed to be at genin, he was Anbu level at 8. Jiraiya didn't like Naruto fretting over his skill level like this, but then he remembered what he met Naruto doing infiltrating an unknown country. When he saw Naruto again at the hot springs years later, he was rather underwhelmed. After taking the Gogyo Fuin off of Naruto and watching him immediately stand on water, he wasn't surprised. He figured he subconsciously knew how to do it already. What had been done to him was a damn shame, and he had every right to be angry. Years of blood, sweat and tears. Okay, not so much tears if he was trained by Danzo, but everything else, all of that was spent to give him his strength and to have a considerable amount of it ripped away by the folly of a pair of old men. Jiraiya knew he would be in an uproar about it too if it were him, and he knew Naruto had all the reason to worry about it. He had just been attacked by 2 of the most infamous ninja actively listed in the bingo book in only sheer folly on their part, and raw luck and hard-nosed skill from his got him out of it. His teammate had been injured in the fracas as well. Jiraiya looked at the boy who was practicing running through hand signs quickly. Hey kid, don't worry about your teammate, he'll be fine. Naruto stopped working on his hand signs and looked at Jiraiya. Oh, that meh, it'll be good for him, a little beating every once in a while builds character. Naruto shrugged when Jiraiya stared in shock at his nonchalant attitude. What, it's how I was trained. Getting your ass kicked makes you really want to avoid getting your ass kicked again, so you do what you can to improve. It's good for him. Huh, well, yeah, that does make sense. Jiraiya nodded in agreement to Naruto's logic. Alright then, let's go find Tsunade. Naruto almost stumbled. Tsunade, as in your old teammate, best damn medic ninja ever. Gambles like shit. Tsunade. Jiraiya chuckled at his description of her. Yeah, that's the one, kid. Though I think you should refrain from using that last one in front of her unless you want to end up a smear on a wall. Jiraiya pulled out a picture of her and handed it to Naruto. Where to find her and bring her back to the village. Naruto put the picture in one of his pockets and kept up with making hand signs that looked like a blur. Jiraiya saw him resume his task. Hey kid, how about I give you that jutsu now? I guarantee you don't know it, and it could be useful to you. You can even train with it while walking like you are right now. Naruto thought for a moment. Sure, why not? It's not like I can go out of my way to handle any other kind of training while we're out here. Jiraiya Grinned, good choice kid, I promise you won't regret it, we'll start when I can get the necessary supplies. XXX Naruto and Jiraiya came upon a town where a festival was taking place. Jiraiya suggested he take this time to relax and they would pick up with the search soon while he would go and get some information on where she was. Naruto agreed and ditched Jiraiya before the latter could try and mooch off of his money. Naruto spent a few hours going through the town, cheating in air, partaking in some games and winning some prizes, getting a bite to eat. He had to admit he may have lost a step or two in battle, but he was having more fun now than he would have been having in Nay, if he was still one of them, that was one thing he had inherited from his old self and learned to love since he broke the seal, the value of a good time. He eventually got worried about the white-haired pervert he had been taking company with and set out to find him. It didn't take long for him to hear his rather distinctive laugh booming from a nearby tavern. Naruto entered to find Jiraiya with alcoholic beverage in hand and pleasurable company on both sides, one of which was hanging off of him. Hey Naruto, come over here and take a load off. Naruto shrugged and walked over, sitting down to the woman on Jiraiya's left, a brunette with hair going down her back. So Jiraiya-sama, who's the little cutie here with you? Naruto raised his eyebrow. Cutie, yeah right? I can't get a girl in Konoha to even so much as look at me with anything less than a sneer when I speak to them. Naruto let out a bitter chuckle that was missed by everyone else. Jiraiya grinned. This is my student Naruto. Uzumaki. Naruto, say hello to Tokoko and Sukina. Naruto waved and let out a small hello. Tokoko, the girl he had been sitting next to that wasn't on Jiraiya, leaned on him, wrapping her arms around his neck. Naruto figured she must have been around 5 years older than him. He's so cute, Jiraiya-sama. He heard the girl let out a gasp as she touched the scar on his face. How did you get something like this? You're so young. Naruto shrugged. Life is hard. It's just a scar, it's nothing important, just a reminder to duck next time. He was a good sport about it as he let her trace the mark over his eye. Naruto and Jiraiya stayed and talked with the women until a few hours after nightfall. Naruto had refrained from drinking the entire time, letting Jiraiya get his fill, for now he knew the man would pay for it in the morning. Naruto waited until Jiraiya was blackout drunk, which took way longer than Naruto figured it should have been. What the hell was his alcohol to blood ratio? Kami bid goodbye to the women they were with and proceeded to haul Jiraiya out of the bar towards an inn for the night. As he got a certain distance down the road, Jiraiya seemingly got a second wind and rose from Naruto's shoulders. Wow, you are strong, Gaki. That was quite a ways to haul dead weight like me. Naruto looked up at Jiraiya, who had seemingly shrugged off the effects of an entire day's worth of binge drinking. You should be laying face up choking on puke right now. How in the hell are you even standing straight? Jiraiya smirked at the boy as he continued looking for a place to stay. I'm no lightweight kid. Naruto deadpanned a look at him, saying that he didn't drink a lightweight share, while Tsunade would have dropped hours ago. I'm just that good. I'm surprised you didn't drag me out or call me an old perv or something. Naruto sighed. I'm not adverse to enjoying myself. And those women were hot. Besides, you said we were relaxing today. Even a brainless ceiling asshole like you needs to rest, and that's obviously how you take the edge off, so why should I have interrupted you? Jiraiya chuckled. You sure are different these days, Gaki. I think Tokoko liked you. That damn scar is going to get you all sorts of pity sex when you get older. Naruto snorted. It's just because she doesn't know who I am. If we were in Konoha, I'd have been shoved to the back burner there, and you know it. Jiraiya hummed in response. Maybe you should get your head off of that pink-haired girl then. There are plenty of other women that won't try to give you brain damage. He expected him to start ranting about how he'd never betray Sakura-chan or how she was just complicated or something. What Naruto said made him almost fall in the street. Huh, so true. Well, you were the one who did it. Jiraiya looked over at the calm expression on his face. What? Naruto looked at him with a cocked brow, hiding his slight glare. The first thing I thought of her when I had time to think about my team again was what the hell was my other self smoking to think she was any good for me? My dumbass childish self was the one that was attracted to her, therefore it's your fault. However, I don't interact with any other girls my age or otherwise, not before you sealed me, and sure as hell not after they all got used to the me that was terrible at everything. Naruto looked up at the moon. All the kunoichi my age all think I suck or they can't stand me. All of the civilians fawn all over Uchiha Teme or are too weak to be able to put up with my life, and the ones that don't all hate me. Anyway, I think Danzo might have been onto something when he told me to get rid of my emotions. Because knowing you'll never get laid out of love kind of sucks. Rasengan. Naruto scratched his chin in thought. Jiraiya flinched as he noted how calmly he had just said that he would never find anyone to be with. No one should just accept that kind of thing as a fact of their life. Naruto left Jiraiya with one more thought for the night. That Tokiko girl was pretty cute though. XXX. As they had woken up the next day and headed out on the road, Jiraiya tossed Naruto a water balloon. Naruto looked up at him blankly. What the hell is this? It's not that hot. Rasengan, you're a grown man. Jiraiya held out another in his own hand. The jutsu you're learning has 3 steps. The first one is to pop that balloon with just the rotation of your chakra. Naruto yawned. Well, does this mystery jutsu have a name, or will I have the pleasure of doing that? Jiraiya held out his other hand as a rapidly spinning blue ball of chakra formed in it. Naruto noticed the speed and the size of the jutsu compared to the massive amount of chakra rolling inside of it. Jiraiya smirked as he saw Naruto's eyes affixed to the ball. It's called Rasengan. It was one of the Yondaime Hokage's prize jutsu. Naruto nodded. Whoa. Jiraiya let the jutsu fade. Indeed. Now let's. He was cut off as the sound of water splashing rang out. He turned to see Naruto shaking his hand and picking pieces of rubber off of it. Jiraiya held out his balloon. Do that again. Naruto grabbed the balloon from his and popped it like clockwork. Jiraiya had to rub his eyes. What? How? Naruto shook more water off of his hands as he kept walking forward. I saw that the jutsu had chakra flowing in all directions. I just did that to the balloon and pop. Jiraiya shook his head. A genin shouldn't have gotten something like that so quickly. A tick mark on Naruto's head appeared. Yeah, well, I'm not supposed to be a genin either. I'm supposed to be a nei anbu. Remember noticing a detail like that is amateur hour stuff. Naruto looked at him expectantly. What's the next step? Jiraiya dumbly held out a rubber ball. Pop this with your chakra. It should be the most difficult step. It has to do with just power. Blam! Naruto's hands snapped to his ears as the rubber ball exploded in his hand. Damn it, why was that so loud? Jiraiya almost had a seizure out in the open road. How did you get it that time? Generating a consistent amount of power like that takes time. Naruto dug into his ear. And I have what's sealed inside of me again. I've been dealing with powerful chakra since I was little. My own naturally got stronger. Danzo had me spamming high-level jutsu all over the place by the time I was 8. Jiraiya opened his mouth but nothing came out. I'll show you the final step later. I need to find something new to start you on. What about your elemental affinity? Wind, and I have several jutsu for that element. I just need to relearn the big ones again. Naruto walked along with a bored expression on his face. Where is Tsunade? Damn it, did you find out anything in that town we were in? Jiraiya ceased his thoughts on Naruto's training and answered, I did actually. She was heading up towards the edge of the country. She'll probably wind up in Tanzaku-gai, so that's where we're going. Naruto grunted. Tell me the third step so I'm not wasting time on the way if I can't get my conditioning in, then I'll have to work with this jutsu until we get somewhere where I can actually work on it. Jiraiya sighed and blew up a balloon. The next step is to mix the first two steps in this balloon. Naruto looked at the balloon in Jiraiya's hand. So what am I doing? Jiraiya lifted his other hand and formed a Rasengan for Naruto to see. Naruto opened his mouth, forming an O in recognition. So I'm doing that just inside the balloon instead, right, so I can get the spatial composition down. Jiraiya nodded. It took me 2 months just to get this far. It hasn't even been an hour yet for him. Kid, what were you like before you were sealed? Thinking about something like that terrifies me. Naruto attempted Jiraiya's instructions. Jiraiya actually breathed a sigh of relief when Naruto's balloon popped. If the kid got Rasengan in one day, then he would have had a fit. Naruto received the pack of balloons from Jiraiya and took out another to blow up. Well, it looks like this will keep me busy for a while. XXX. What happened here? Jiraiya and Naruto looked at what used to be the famous castle of Tanzaku-gai. It was nothing but rubble at this point. Jiraiya and Naruto walked over to the scene and looked around while Naruto kicked at the rubble under his feet. Jiraiya noticed holes in the wall nearby, a sign of his wayward teammate. Jiraiya jerked Naruto by his arm to lead him away. Come on, kid, we're close, very close. After searching the town all day, they stopped at a tavern for a little meal before retiring for the night. Jiraiya stopped as he walked inside. Tsunade, a blonde woman with a jewel-looking mark on her forehead, looked up in shock. Jiraiya, what are you doing here? Jiraiya and Naruto walked over to her table where there was a black-haired woman holding a small pig. Well, we just stopped here for a bite to eat. Imagine meeting you here of all places. Naruto took a seat alongside Jiraiya and looked out at the two women. Tsunade. So this is the last of the Sannin. Looks like I've met the full set. Lucky me. Tsunade's eyes drifted over to him. So who's the brat? Jiraiya. Naruto's eye twitched. Yep. Lucky, lucky, lucky. Jiraiya looked at Naruto, who was wearing an unreadable expression minus the twitching. This is Naruto Uzumaki, my new apprentice. Naruto's eyebrows shot up. Apprentice since when? Jiraiya smirked at the boy. Since you signed the Toad contract before the invasion, kid. Congratulations. Naruto grumbled and placed his face on his hands. Great. The guy that locked away my strength and skill wants to make amends and teach me how to fight again. Jiraiya looked confused. Kid, don't you want me to do that? Naruto slammed his palms on the table. I'll tell you what I want. I want to go home so I can get my shit together and get strong again. I want to yell at you and beat you to a pulp. I want something or someone to cling to, because I think I'm starting to lose it with all of the shit running through my mind. Naruto was standing now. But I can't have those things, not for a bunch of reasons. I can work on one of those things now, though. Naruto pointed at Tsunade. You were going back to Konoha time to go home. Tsunade was stunned silent by the sheer fact that some kid just ordered her to do something of that magnitude, and he didn't even blink. Jiraiya palmed his forehead. Smooth kid. Really subtle stuff there. Naruto glared at Jiraiya. You can shut up too. I'm still pissed at you, damn it. Jiraiya groaned. When won't you be pissed at me? Naruto smirked. When I can do everything I used to be able to do and then some. Naruto looked back at Tsunade. So let's go, come on. Tsunade flipped the table over angrily. Who the hell do you think you are, runt? Where do you think you can get off telling me to go back to that place? Naruto didn't bat an eye. I think I'm the unfortunate bastard. Tasked with dragging your sorry alcoholic ass home and I don't fail missions, Naruto kicked his chair backwards. You can come with us or I can beat your ass and drag you back myself, Tsunade pointed to the door and stomped outside. Naruto followed briskly. Jiraiya groaned as he stood to leave. As well, come on Shizune, someone needs to sweep that kid's remains off the street after Tsunade is done with him. XXX Naruto stood across from Tsunade in the middle of the street. He looked around. You know this really isn't the place for something like this unless you like paying for property damage, but don't you have enough debts? Shut up and get ready to face the music, you brat. Tsunade lifted her index finger. One finger, that's all I need for a runt like you. Naruto smirked. I thought I was rusty after 4 years. Well, when was the last time she was even in a fight? Sometimes life cracks a window for you. Well, she just opened the goddamn front door for me. Jiraiya and Shizune walked out. Tsunade let it go. We can talk about this. Tsunade glared over at Jiraiya. Shut up, Jiraiya. He has this coming. Brats like this need to know their place. Naruto glared over at Jiraiya also. Yeah, shut up, Ero Sennin. Old ladies like this need to learn how to deal with their problems before they turn old and gray instead of just running away. Tsunade growled at Naruto. Give me your best shot, brat. You won't get another one. Naruto's eyes went cold as his face went blank. If I do this right, then one shot is all I'll really need. His eyes narrowed. You'd better hope I miss. A slight shiver went down Jiraiya's spine as he saw the look in Naruto's eyes. Tsunade, you might want to use more than. Tsunade snapped at him again. I said shut up, Jiraiya. Naruto kept his stone-cold eyes leveled on her. Looks like the crabby old lady needs an attitude adjustment. Yelling at her old friends like that. Tsunade had enough of Naruto's mouth and charged at him. Naruto's body tensed as he counted the steps until she was in range. Shouldn't a Sannin be faster than this? I guess she really is rusty. Tsunade attempted a backhand swipe, but Naruto swatted it away, leaving her guard wide open. Tsunade was shocked as Naruto moved far faster than she expected. A kid his age to be able to ending up with him sinking a fist into her ribs. Jiraiya had to let a small smile come on his face as he saw Shizune's jaw drop. Shizune's grip on the pet pig Tun almost squashed the poor thing as he saw a child get the first shot on Tsunade in a fight. Jiraiya-sama, how can that genin land a blow like that on Tsunade-sama? He hit first. Jiraiya shook his head. Just because he's a genin doesn't mean he has to fight like a genin, does it? Tsunade ran green glowing hands over her torso and glared at Naruto, who had simply reset himself in his stance. So you can move with some quickness. You're still a brat. I still only need one finger. She won't even acknowledge when someone is a threat. This is going to work out better than the fight with Itachi. Naruto formed a cross seal and formed several cage bunshin. You got disoriented by just one of me. How are you going to handle 8 scatter? Naruto's clones blurred around the street, looking more like an angry hive of bees rather than a group of boys. Tsunade's eyes kept themselves on all possible threats. She ended up blocking a few preemptive strikes with just one finger per her boast, and kept looking for a prime target to hit. The sounds of something swirling made Tsunade turn her head to see Naruto forming a blue ball that Tsunade could label from a mile away. Realizing just how damaging that move could be, she chopped at the ground with her finger, disrupting his footing in forcing him to break the attack and fall down. Tsunade looked over at Jiraiya. Jiraiya, what were you thinking teaching a kid like this that kind of jutsu? Jiraiya wasn't even looking at her. He was looking in another direction with a grin on his face. Hey Naruto, don't embarrass her badly, kid. She's supposed to be our next Hokage. Naruto strode out of the darkness of a nearby alley holding Something in his hands. He had a dumbstruck look on his face. Really, her? Are you sure? Because for all intents and purposes I just killed her. Tsunade watched as the Naruto in front of her burst into smoke and was about to ask what he meant. All of a sudden she felt a draft around her chest and looked down to see her gray kimono blouse open and fluttering in the breeze. Shizune looked mortified at the sight of her master's busty glory out for all the world to see. She was thankful solely for the fact that the street was clear. Naruto smirked in a mean-spirited fashion as he slung her obi around like a rope. I think you're missing something there. His eyes widened as he actually got a decent look at her. Whoa. Good on you though, bravo. Jiraiya ran up to Naruto and shook his hand with stars in his eyes. Kid, that was amazing, you're my hero. Jiraiya dropped to the ground and bowed down. I'm not worthy to train you, kid, you should be training me. Tsunade's senses came back online as she proverbially saw red and rushed over to Naruto, hitting him dead on and sending him flying into the front wall of a nearby building, utterly turning it to rubble. Jiraiya and Shizune ran over to where he had landed as Tsunade held her clothing shut with her hands. Amazingly, they found him still conscious but not in any condition to get back up as Shizune started running a diagnostic jutsu on him. He coughed up some blood. Cough, I win. Tsunade stormed over and ripped her obi from his grasp, reapplying it. What do you mean? Look at you, brat, you're a mess. Naruto grinned, showing her bloody teeth in his smile. You still used more than one finger to beat me, you lose. Naruto shakily picked himself up off of the ground, shocking all who witnessed it. Now playtime is over, time to go back to Konoha already. Tsunade sneered at him. Why would I? Why should I? I already said I'm not going. That place has taken too much from me. It isn't getting my life too. She turned to leave. Shizune, come on, the brat is fine, we're leaving. Jiraiya stood in front of her path to leave. Tsunade, like I said, the elders have chosen you as our next Hokage. Now that we've caught you, we're not just going to let you vanish again. We'll stay on you until you decide to come along. Tsunade scoffed and turned away, looking out at the road. She saw the marking from the attempted Rasengan and looked back with a devious smirk. All right, since you won't just leave, how about we have a little wager? She walked over to the injured Naruto. That move you tried to use on me back there, you know. It was once used by the Yondaime Hokage. If you can master that move in 1 week, then I'll give you the necklace I'm wearing and I'll return with you to Konoha. If you fail, then you'll give me all of your money and give up the mission. Naruto looked at the necklace and back up at her. Deal, 1 week. I'll learn how to perform the Rasengan in 1 week or we'll go home without you. Tsunade had a victorious look on her face and turned to leave, Shizune in tow. Naruto got Jiraiya to help him walk down the street as they went to get their own hotel room. Are you going to be alright, Gaki? Naruto's teeth were gritted as he tried his hardest to stay upright with Jiraiya's assistance. Yeah. I just need to sleep it off for the time being. I'll be fine in the morning. I'm okay. Jiraiya rolled his eyes as they hobbled down the street. You know, I kind of wasn't kidding back there, kid. You're my hero today. That sight you gave me, absolutely glorious. I've wanted to see that again for over 15 years and I finally have the best. Part 1 didn't even get beaten up for it this time. Jiraiya finished with a lecherous grin on his face. Naruto sweat dropped. That's great, Arrow Sennin, glad I could help, I guess. XXX. The next day Naruto was awakened from his deep slumber by a knock at his door. Lumbering over to the door, he opened it to find Shizune. Shizune-san, what is it? She came inside and looked him over, noting the fact that he was shirtless and had scars littering his body. Are you sure you're okay from last night? Tsunade-sama has liquidated men using less force than she used on you. Naruto sat on his bed and stretched. I'm fine, I've had worse, so what do you need? I need to go train for this bet already. Shizune rubbed her arm awkwardly. That's what I want to talk to you about. I don't want you to think of Tsunade-sama as a bad person. She's just bitter. Naruto nodded. Because her brother and lover were killed during wartime. I know. Shizune's eyes widened in shock. How do you know that? Naruto shrugged. The guy that trained me made me learn all kinds of stuff about Konoha's famous ninja. Shizune looked at him strangely. The academy in Konoha sure goes over some classified things these days. Naruto chuckled darkly. No, they don't. I didn't learn that in the academy. I learned things of that nature elsewhere. Shizune recovered admirably. Well, if you know that, then you must know that that necklace is cursed. It will kill anyone who wears it other than Tsunade-sama. Naruto stood up and walked towards the door. Well, then I guess I'm next because I'm winning this little bet of ours, so tell her to get all of her affairs in order and get ready to go back to Konoha. I'll see you later, Shizune-san. Naruto left Shizune sitting in the room as he left the hotel entirely. Naruto made his way to the outskirts of the town where he found Jiraiya sitting against a tree waiting for him. He had a smirk on his face. Kid, you must have the biggest set on you. You made a bet like that with Tsunade. Naruto smirked at him. Well, I have a week to train my body back up to normal. It won't be even a drop in the bucket to what I need, but free time is free time. Jiraiya looked at him strangely. Kid, you need to work on the Rasengan and win this bet. You can wait to do everything else right now. Finish the jutsu and then do everything else. Naruto looked at him mischievously. Oh, you mean this Rasengan? Naruto formed the perfect blue ball in his hand and pushed it against the tree Jiraiya was sitting against, forcing it to explode in a shower of bark and wood chips. Jiraiya looked at him stunned. You finished it? Naruto grinned widely. Deception is just another tool of the game. When I fought her last night, I used it as a distraction. I just needed to get her attention so my clone didn't really focus on the attack. I can do the Rasengan, but showing her that I could last night would have done no good. She would have just made another impossible bet that I would have had to actually work at. Jiraiya was still confused. Well, why didn't you just show her last night? Naruto gave him a dry look. Ero Sennin, I was seeing sextuple last night. She gave me a concussion. I still feel my head pounding even today. There was no way I could focus to show her the finished product last night after the bet was made. Naruto stretched out as he prepared to work. I'll just milk this for the week of training I can get in and show her on the last day. I don't have to tell you to watch her. You know she's a flight risk. Jiraiya looked at Naruto seriously. Yeah, there's a good chance Orochimaru is here as well. Naruto stopped stretching to look up at Jiraiya. Really? Well then that's all the more reason for me to get to work now, isn't it? Jiraiya turned to head back to town with a grin on his face. Damn brat is going to be stronger than all of us one of these days. XXX. Over the course of the next week, Naruto threw himself into training as hard as he could. Regaining intense control of his chakra was his primary concern. He trained in this facet by way of mass kunai balancing. He attempted to reacquaint himself with the movements of swordplay once more, but until he could get in some decent sparring, there was only so much he could remember. He still needed weights to get his speed up, and he figured his strength was all right for now. Not being able to activate his true levels for years did a number on his muscles. Contrary to popular belief, gravity seals aren't really a form of training. The seal weighs you down by connecting to your chakra and manipulating how much you would be able to pump to your muscles, decreasing the greatest amounts that you attempt to generate depending on the nature of the seal. It could seal away any percentage of your maximum. The difficulty and obscurity of the seal gave rise to the rumors of it being used as a training method. Jiraiya had been using the seal in combat for decades since he had discovered its uses when Jiraiya came across a powerful or dangerous ninja that he didn't necessarily want to kill. He would sometimes place the seal on them to make sure they couldn't challenge him again. Most of them, however, never realized this and went the rest of their careers lagging in their physical skills unknowingly until they were later killed in battle. Naruto had to sigh in relief when he realized that Jiraiya had placed something like that on him. Who knows what may have happened if he had kept it on with dangerous ninja after me, and me lacking the ability to get faster or stronger, I would have been a dead man. At least he still had enough speed to deem manageable against most opponents for now anyway. He found that he was as fast as rock. Lee with his ways off. Naruto chuckled when he thought of the boy. Now that would be a hell of a spar. He then realized that Lee had been crippled by Gaara during the exams, and that stoked his resolve further that Tsunade wasn't going to get out of this bet with him. If anyone can help Lee get better, it's her. Just another reason to drag her back kicking and screaming if I have to. Naruto rubbed his hands together as he felt a familiar presence at the edge of the woods. Okay, kill two birds with one stone. Train this jutsu of mine and rattle her with my training. Serves her right for trying to spy. Naruto made a mass of hand signs and drew his hands apart as wind whipped around them. He turned to a boulder and thrusted out his fists pushed together at the thumb and index finger. Fuuten Fujin Seiken Wind Release Divine Fist of the Wind God. A fierce wind pushed from his fists and impacted hard against the boulder, leaving the imprint of his two fists the size of his entire body. Naruto smirked as he felt Tsunade leave the area of her hiding. Alright, finally one down, 8 more to go. I'm getting all of my jutsu back. Just wait till I bust out the big ones. Naruto awoke with a groan. Okay, I guess I still can't use all of my jutsu yet. The previous night Naruto had exhausted himself trying one of his more upper-tier ninjutsu. Waking up in his own bed, he realized that Tsunade must have been spying on him again. Naruto chuckled. Haha, I wonder if she saw that one. Naruto jumped out of bed and tripped over a black bundle at the foot of his bed. As it groaned, he realized who it was. Shizune-san, what are you doing here? Shizune's hazy eyes opened and widened as she jumped up, surprising the blonde. Tsunade-sama, where is she? Naruto grabbed Shizune to calm her down. Hold on a second, just wait, you're saying she did this to you? Shizune stopped stirring and rested in his arms, though he felt her breathing was still frantic. Naruto sighed and let her go. Shizune immediately made for the window. We have to find Tsunade-sama. It might be too late to stop her. As Shizune left through the window, a kunai buried itself to the right of her head into a wall. They both turned to see Jiraiya standing on the ledge uneasily. Where's Tsunade? His voice held a threatening tone as he slinked along the wall up to Naruto and Shizune. Naruto took note of Jiraiya's condition. Geez, Rasengan, what the hell happened to you? Jiraiya sat on the ledge and experimentally flexed his arms. Tsunade drugged me last night. I should have known better. She wasn't as pissy as she usually was when she drank with me. Naruto's attention was drawn up at an adjacent rooftop, but when he peered up he saw nothing. Shizune had gone to fetch Jiraiya an antidote to whatever Jiraiya had ailing him. She ran back and handed Jiraiya a glass of water and some crushed up pills. Sorry Jiraiya-sama, there isn't an antidote to the poison. This should even you out though. Jiraiya took the pills and swallowed them with the water. Thank you, Shizune. When Naruto's attention returned to the roof, he could no longer sense anyone's presence. Naruto looked at Shizune. It's Orochimaru, isn't it? Shizune looked surprised. Naruto looked over to Jiraiya. How you feeling? Rasengan. Jiraiya crushed the glass in his hands. It's not much, my chakra is still fluctuating. But it'll have to do. Shizune looked down sadly. Orochimaru came to us last week with an offer. Restore his arms and he'll return Tsunade-sama's most precious people to her from the dead." She looked at Jiraiya hopefully. "Today is the day they meet. We might still be able to keep her from doing it." Jiraiya stood. "So how are we going to find her?" Shizune grabbed Tun Tun and jumped to the ground before placing the small pig onto the ground. "We need your help, Tun Tun. Can you find Tsunade-sama for us?" The pig oinked as it sniffed at the ground. Jiraiya and Naruto dropped down around them just as Tun Tun began oinking wildly at Shizune. Shizune turned to the other two with her. "Tun Tun has her scent. Come on, it's this way." XXX. They returned to the area of the ruined castle and found even more signs of destruction, though they were newer. Naruto smiled at the sight of the pulverized wall. "It looks like the old bat turned him down." Jiraiya nodded. "Yeah, that might not be so good for her though. Come on, we still have to find her." As they ran into a field, they found Tsunade being beaten by Kabuto. Shizune shouted for her mistress as she ran over to her side. "Tsunade-sama." Naruto and Jiraiya waited close by as Shizune took out a handkerchief and wiped blood from Tsunade's face. Naruto looked at the scene in confusion. "Ero Sennin, what's going on here? Is it a genjutsu or something?" Jiraiya shook his head in the negative. "Tsunade has hemophobia. She's afraid of blood, kid. Even the sight of it messes her up and makes her like that right now. She's utterly useless." Naruto looked out at Orochimaru, whose arms were wrapped up, but Naruto could see faint traces of blood coming through. Next to him was Kabuto, who was wearing a headband with a musical note on it. Naruto's eyes narrowed at the sight. "Kabuto Yakushi, I can't say it's good to see you again. At least I know my information was right. I just wish I could have gotten your ass before the invasion. Damn seal." Jiraiya looked down at the now fuming blonde. "Kami kid, I said I was sorry. Hindsight is 20/20, they always say." Orochimaru chuckled as he saw the arrival of his third teammate, Jiraiya and Naruto-kun too. "What a warm reunion this is, though. I do know. Wonder what you are doing here." Jiraiya held his arm out in front of Naruto, keeping him from beginning to engage the enemy. "Protect Tsunade Gaki. Orochimaru is too much for you, and that Kabuto kid is out of your league also. It would take an Anbu." Jiraiya trailed off as he looked down at Naruto, who was giving him a deadpan look. "Trying to be funny, old man." Jiraiya sighed and waved. "Fine. Shizune can watch over Tsunade, I guess. Go ahead and fight. Specs over there. I'll handle Orochimaru." Orochimaru heard this and chuckled. "You'll handle me, Jiraiya. You were always the weakest of the Sannin, even handicapped. You can't beat me. And sending your little blonde against Kabuto here, you must not like him too much." Jiraiya looked back at Shizune. "Can you keep an eye on Tsunade? Me and the Gaki will handle the snake and his flunky." Shizune nodded and returned to trying to calm Tsunade down. "You ready, brat?" Jiraiya looked over at Naruto, who smiled up at him angrily. "This one's for Sarutobi-sensei." Naruto snorted. "You can make it for the old man if you want. This one's for the hubby douche sicking those 5 souped-up cursed seal assholes on me when he chased me out of Otto. That son of a bitch with the bones wasn't a joke. I've still got a gripe with him. Kabuto now." Kabuto pulled the bandages off of one of Orochimaru's arms and ran his own blood down the summoning tattoo on it. "Kuchiyose no Jutsu summoning jutsu." Kabuto and Orochimaru then stood atop 3 rampaging snakes heading towards Naruto and Jiraiya. Jiraiya went to summon himself, and in a small puff of smoke Gamakichi was revealed. "Oh hey, good to see you again." Naruto sweat dropped. "Seriously, I could do better than that. Come on, this is serious. Gakirum." Naruto moved back as Jiraiya made a set of hand signs and slammed his hands on the ground. "Doton Yomi Numa, earth release swamp of the underworld." The ground in front of him turned into a dark murky substance, trapping the snakes within, disabling their movement. Jiraiya audibly cursed, "Damn it, it isn't very deep at all. I must still be under the effects of Tsunade's drug." Naruto shook his head. "Man, Rasengan, you sure do suck today. Come on, we don't need any help right now anyway." Naruto turned to Gamakichi, "Go over to the lady in black and the blonde woman and stay put. This won't be a nice battle." Gamakichi hopped off as the battle stalemated. Jiraiya and Naruto both launched out at their chosen opponents, who broke off to confront them separately. Jiraiya began assaulting Orochimaru, who was noticeably unable to attack using his arms, instead lashing out with kicks and slipping away from Jiraiya's assault. Jiraiya decided to tease his former teammate. "Man, it must be hard to use jutsu with no arms, that must suck for a guy like you, huh, Orochimaru?" Orochimaru gave a superior smirk. "I don't even need my arms to destroy you." "Jiraiya, I saw your weak jutsu. You're just as bad as me." Jiraiya barked out a laugh. "I guess that's true as well. I guess we're just going to have to wait for our retainers to finish off their little speck of business before we can really get to the main event." Orochimaru laughed slowly. "The Kyuubi child Jiraiya, I've seen what he can do against Kabuto. He has no chance. The boy has absolutely no skill as a shinobi." Jiraiya gave a big grin. "And that would be my fault, but don't worry, Rochi. I fixed him up before we even got to this town. I'm letting him fight Kabuto down there because I know he'll win. Consider this his coming out party, so to speak." Orochimaru looked befuddled. "I fought him, Jiraiya, even going as hard as he could. Kyuubi's chakra and all, he didn't come close to impressing me. Now the Uchiha, what strength, a true genius." Jiraiya broke down in laughter. "I guess the standards for a genius are seriously declining these days. If just being a genin at the regular age makes you a genius, then I don't know what the hell to call Naruto." Orochimaru gave a cruel grin. "How about failure, loser, cannon fodder, frontline trash? Take your pick, or make a few more of your own." Jiraiya had a placid smile on his face as he just stared at Orochimaru. "Ah, that's a good one." Orochimaru contorted his face in confusion. What are you talking about?" Jiraiya gave him a hard look. "That face of yours just now, I want to remember it for later just so I can compare it to the look on your face after you see what the Gaki can really do." XXX Naruto faced off with Kabuto a distance away from where Orochimaru and Jiraiya were currently in conflict. Kabuto crossed his arms, a decided superior smirk on his face. "You might want to leave this place before things get messy. You're a little out of your element here, Orochimaru-sama." "Myself, Jiraiya, Tsunade, even the woman with Tsunade, all of us are high-level shinobi. I myself am on par with Kakashi Hatake, and you're just a cute little genin that's out of his place." Naruto started chuckling, but then chuckling gave way to full-blown laughter. "Haha man, I'm glad I didn't end up broken like everybody else in Ne, because hearing that little, threatening rundown was too much. You comparable to Kakashi Hatake, I'll believe it when I feel it." Naruto pointed back in Tsunade's general direction. "I already beat Tsunade the other day. I could have killed her if I wanted to. Knowing she's got hemophobia would have easier than it was." He pointed in the direction of the trapped snakes. "Orochimaru is crippled. It wouldn't be too much of a stretch for me to beat him too, especially if he's underestimating me like you." Kabuto laughed loudly. "To be naive genin, believing that you can fight and defeat anyone." Naruto scratched his head. "How to get you to understand? Okay, you obviously remember 4 years ago when one of Otogakure's bases got sacked and Orochimaru sent out his elite bodyguards to handle the intrusion." Kabuto nodded. "Those fools were punished for allowing the intruder to escape. A spy like that could have been detrimental to our efforts. They haven't failed since. Kabuto's eyes snapped open wide. Wait, are you really saying there's no way you would have had to have been 8 years old? Naruto grinned widely. Ding 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 ding, got it in one. Kabuteme, it was me, I'd have gotten away clean too if it wasn't for Ero Sennin's love for dramatic bullshit who blows up the information depot during a reconnaissance mission. Honestly, how is that stealth? Kabuto pointed at him accusingly. No way, from what I've seen and from the information on you, you're nothing, a low level genin. Naruto chuckled. Well, that's what the Konoha records had on one. Kabuto Yakushi also. If you'll recall, we all know how that turned out, right, Mr. Spy? If you were capable of it, then why wouldn't I be? I didn't even have to join any ranks and keep suspicion off like you did. All I had to do was not get caught. Naruto tapped his finger on his head. I had the plans for your invasion all up here way back then. Every move you had planned out over the long term was all up here. All of your bases, the info that was listed on your cursed seal, the true nature of Orochimaru's immortality jutsu. It's all here. The only reason your invasion had even half of a chance of even getting off of the ground was because of some unfortunate business that ended with me getting my memory and abilities sealed off before I could tell the necessary people. Kabuto tilted his glasses and scoffed. Well, then Naruto-kun, please show me these skills of yours that allowed you to breach our defenses. I'm in need of a new form of entertainment after all. Naruto nodded sagely. Ah, I see. I guess it would get boring being Orochimaru's ass muppet after a while. Playing hide the trouser snake would get dull. Even for a flaming fruit like you, I assume. Kabuto gritted his teeth in anger. Do not slander Orochimaru-sama like that. What could you possibly know about his power? Naruto grinned. Hey, being a pedophilic creep doesn't mean he's weak, and from the way you're defending him it sounds like a fucking lie to me, boy, and don't think I didn't notice how you refrained from defending yourself either. Kabuto rushed in at Naruto, who set himself in a defensive stance. Kabuto's hands glowed blue. As he neared closer, Naruto dodged his first attacks and kicked him back to get some distance between them. Chakra scalpels. I see your medic ninja letting you in close wouldn't be too favorable as long as you're using that. Kabuto chuckled. Try to keep me away then, Naruto-kun. Kabuto rushed back in and engaged Naruto close up once more. Naruto ducked out of the way of Kabuto's attack, choosing to slip under and around his punches rather than block, lest his muscle tendons and other internal things in his arms be cut. He also had to watch it when he threw a punch or kick of his own, to make sure that Kabuto didn't cut anything by simply blocking or parrying his moves. Naruto dodged even more of Kabuto's potentially fatal strikes, grunting in effort. You're really annoying to fight. You're really fast even for a medic nin. Kabuto's confident smirk returned. Like I said, Naruto-kun, you're all talk, you're not on my level. Kabuto overextended on one of his attacks and allowed Naruto to spring out of close range. Naruto immediately began tossing out kunai at Kabuto, who dodged deftly and chuckled. Simple kunai, Naruto-kun, that honestly can't be your best. Naruto rolled his eyes. There you go again with that superiority thing of yours. Why are bad guys such douchebags? Naruto rolled through a series of hand signs. Raten Denkai lightning release electric field. Kabuto sat in place as he felt and saw nothing. Naruto simply stood in place staring at Kabuto with cold blue eyes that seemed to analyze his every movement. Kabuto simply strolled forward. You must not have that jutsu down quite yet, Naruto-kun. Don't worry, I mean, you are still just a genin after all. Naruto's eyes showed no indication that he had even acknowledged Kabuto's words. Kabuto shrugged and strolled forward, reactivating his chakra scalpels once more until a sharp jolt of electricity thrusted him backwards. What is this? Didn't you hear me call out the jutsu? Naruto kept his gaze on Kabuto, only this time he had a smirk on his face. You didn't really think that I was that bad at using kunai, did you? Kabuto turned to see a small spark of electricity coming from one of the kunai. He then noticed that the weapons Naruto had thrown were strewn about in a rough circle around him, a barrier jutsu. I really have been underestimating you. Naruto made more hand signs. I'm not done yet. From here I can branch off into tons of stuff. Just watch. Raiden Denki Mayhemu lightning release electric mayhem. Kabuto heard multiple snaps of electricity going off around him before a burning jolt hit his body. As he caught his breath from the sudden zap, he could actually see random pulses of lightning rushing from kunai to kunai. Another shot hit him and dropped him to the ground while he was analyzing the jutsu. Kabuto was breathing raggedly as he turned his head towards Naruto, whose hands were held out at the field surrounding Kabuto. Do you like it? This jutsu lets me just trap and torment you in there until you black out or just die. The more chakra I pump into it, the more frequent the bursts of electricity will come. The only thing is that I can't control the lightning coursing through the field, but it still has a great chance of hitting you as you've felt. Naruto channeled more chakra into his attack, forcing the snapping sounds of electricity to sound off more frequently. Kabuto shakily rose to his feet once more but was quickly struck back down before he could even try to rise again. He was hit one more time. Kabuto growled to himself and sunk into the ground before another bolt could hit him. Naruto simply stood in a position to move quickly and jumped aside as Kabuto's hands emerged from the ground to grab at his legs. Naruto landed and formed three Kage Bunshin who swarmed around Kabuto, launching attacks up close. Kabuto had somehow recovered enough from being electrocuted to fend off and dispel the Bunshin. Without too much trouble, Kabuto looked at Naruto, who was once more giving him a cold stare. That was a pretty effective jutsu, Naruto-kun. If I couldn't dig my way out, I don't know how I would have escaped it. Kabuto's hands glowed green as he ran them over his torso to heal himself. You're quite a troublesome opponent. Naruto tapped his foot impatiently while Kabuto healed. Well, while you're doing that, Naruto made more hand signs and thrusted his fists out at Kabuto. Fuuten Fujin Seiken. Wind release divine fist of the wind god. A visible ripple of air flew at Kabuto and hit him like a high-speed cart, sending him flying back, rolling head over heels bonelessly until he came to a stop. Naruto smirked as he saw Kabuto cease his backwards movement. You still alive over there? Kabuto stood up once more with blood trailing down his chin. That was a solid hit there, Naruto-kun. I was right, you are a troublesome opponent. Naruto scoffed at Kabuto's pseudo-praise. Oh really? I thought I was just a genin that was out of his element. If all it took to get your praise was an ass-kicking, then when I go back to Konoha I guess I'll have to start dealing them out en masse. XXX. Shizune had cleaned the blood from Tsunade's face quickly but found that she was still lacking response. She had taken to watching Naruto fight Kabuto, seeing as how Jiraiya and Orochimaru were too far away to find, and that she didn't know whether or not Naruto would require her backup. Much to her surprise and delight, however, Naruto was capable of handling Kabuto handily. Were it not for the fact that Kabuto was a medic ninja, she was sure that the accumulated damage of Naruto's attacks would have beaten him. Tsunade's eyes had been affixed straight ahead ever since Kabuto had splattered her with blood, so she actually had been watching Naruto fight Kabuto the entire time, watching him fight off the silver-haired medic. She realized that she had been extremely wrong in her first impressions of him. He shot his mouth off when they first met, not because he was too confident in his own abilities but because He found her pathetic. He truly did. Someone with such a famous name, such a famous lineage, and such talent and legend known around the elemental nations, was so bitter and disenfranchised, so much so that she let her skills fade enough for someone like himself to get the better of her. That shouldn't have happened, no matter how dangerous he was. When she had seen him train for the entire week, she had been amazed. His attempt to use a range of high-level techniques was something she had never seen from a boy so young. After he was done with one, he would move right on to the next one. If he couldn't get one to work, he would attempt it until he could force it, or until he dropped out of exhaustion. The spark she could see in his blue eyes while he trained was the antithesis of what could be found in them in battle. In training, he would laugh, chuckle, crack jokes at himself, and show his spirit and emotion. In battle, he kept things bottled, only choosing to take snide verbal shots at his opponents. To get the upper hand, she had to rub her eyes a few times as she watched him train, because his actions in training reminded her so much of her deceased younger brother Nawaki. Gamakichi hopped on her shoulder and looked out at the fight excitedly. "Man, my bro is kicking ass out there." She unconsciously clenched her fist around her necklace as the battle carried on. Maybe just one more time she could believe in someone. XXX Kabuto pulled out a hooked kunai, as enlightening as our little skirmish has been. Naruto-kun, it's time I put an end to this. Orochimaru-sama is a busy man. We all have work to do. Naruto nodded and pointed back at Tsunade. Yep, I agree. Right now I have to go drag Ba-chan back to Konoha, but I also have a bet to win. Luckily for me, you're going to help me with that. Naruto snapped his fingers as two pairs of arms shot up from the ground and grabbed Kabuto's legs and arms, holding him in place. Kabuto tried to shake them off, but the grip was iron. What is this?" A familiar voice sounded off from behind where he was grabbed. He turned slightly to face the cold eyes of the boy that was also facing off against him across the field. "You didn't think you were the only one who could use Doton Mogaragakure no Jutsu Earth Release Hidden Mole Jutsu, did you?" Kabuto looked ahead of him to see Naruto smirking. "Now I've got this new jutsu. I was taught, but I never got to use it on any real people before. I think you'll make the perfect guinea pig for me, don't you think? With your healing abilities you should be fine." "Maybe, meh, it's not like I really care anyway." Naruto charged up chakra into his hand. Kabuto's eyes widened and his struggling increased as he realized just what it was as a blue spinning orb took shape in Naruto's grasp. Naruto strode towards him slowly. The stride turned into a jog, and the jog into a sprint. As he rushed at Kabuto, he thrusted the attack out and into the exposed body of Kabuto. Rasengan. Naruto ignored the blood flying as the attack tore into Kabuto's body and sent him flying off into a nearby boulder. Naruto turned towards Tsunade and walked with a purpose over to her and Shizune. When he got close, a goofy grin appeared on his face. "I do believe you owe me that necklace of yours, Ba-chan." XXX Orochimaru's jaw dropped low as he had just seen Naruto handily dispatch his right-hand man. A clicking sound brought him back into awareness as he saw Jiraiya holding a camera. "Ah, that's a good one." Orochimaru gritted his teeth. "Such power, he's too dangerous to leave alive. I have to kill him here before he gets too strong." Orochimaru flew off of the snakes at Naruto. Jiraiya tried stopping him but was tossed aside. Tsunade's drug had yet to wear off as he launched himself at Naruto. His sword Kusanagi emerged from his mouth. Naruto's back was turned to the murderous Sannin as he closed in sword out and about. As he was talking to Tsunade, his senses went off and he drew his sword, turning around in the nick of time just to block Orochimaru's strike. Naruto's eyes widened as he realized just who he was crossing blades with. "Orochimaru Teme, nice to see you again," he noticed. The arms of Orochimaru. The old man really did a number on you back in Konoha, didn't he? Orochimaru hissed at the boy as he pushed against him. Just die, boy, you'll ruin my plans for the future. He pulled back and began slashing at Naruto, who held up his defenses, slowly backing up due to his surprising strength. Naruto tried to strike back, but Orochimaru showed traits reminiscent of his summons as he dodged Naruto's attacks. Naruto had to take great care as he slipped around Orochimaru's strikes. Even a scratch from the legendary weapon could poison him, a tactic that Naruto had to somewhat respect. A good way to ensure victory for sure, and Orochimaru knew how to use it even from his mouth as the clang of steel on steel went on. Orochimaru landed a kick to his body, sending him flying back next to Tsunade. Naruto gave her a reassuring grin. Don't worry, Ba-chan, I'll get rid of this guy and then I'll be dragging you back to Konoha. Just sit tight. Tsunade gasped at the sight of the blonde's grinning face. He looks just like Nawaki. She took notice of Orochimaru hovering over him. Orochimaru thrusted downwards with his sword. Naruto barely blocked the point of the sword with the flat of his own. Naruto struggled against Orochimaru as the murderous intent in Orochimaru's eyes blazed. Suddenly a fist was implanted into Orochimaru's face, sending him flying a few feet back. Naruto blinked as he was pulled to his feet by the woman who was just on the ground watching him. Ba-chan. Tsunade was staring out intently at Orochimaru. Are you okay, brat? Naruto nodded dumbly. Yeah, Ba-chan, I'm just fine. She smirked at him in response. Good, because I owe you a serious beatdown for all of this, Ba-chan. Crap you're spouting. Realization then covered her face. Oh yeah. She took off her necklace and placed it on Naruto. You win, kid. You've beaten me fair and square and I'm an honest woman. Orochimaru stood up and cracked his jaw back into place as he glared out at Tsunade. Tsunade, what do you think you're doing? Why would you put your life at risk just to assist a brat like that? Tsunade cracked her knuckles. I would risk my life because I am Tsunade Senju, granddaughter of the Shodai Hokage, grandniece of the Nidaime Hokage. And as of today I am the Godem Hokage of Konohagakure no Sato. Naruto and Shizune appeared at her side. You tell him, Ba-chan. Now let's kick his ass and go home already. Orochimaru-sama. Kabuto landed by his side and drew more blood down Orochimaru's summon tattoo to call upon another summon. Naruto blanched as he saw Kabuto still moving. What, I ripped him apart? He should be dead. Naruto rushed off to Jiraiya's side to summon for him. Bring out Gamabunta. Naruto nodded and summoned for him, and Jiraiya. Tsunade followed suit and summoned her own boss creature as 3 massive puffs of smoke went up across the landscape. The smoke cleared to reveal a massive snake slug and Toad, all looking at one another. Gamabunta let out a puff of smoke from his pipe. Well, if it isn't Manda and Katsuyu, how long's it been since I've seen you two? Jiraiya looked down from where he and Naruto were standing on his head. Bunta, we need your help for this one, so are you in? Gamabunta let out another puff from his pipe. Sure, why not? I guess now I can finally get that snakeskin wallet I've been wanting. Naruto smirked. What would a giant toad want with a snakeskin wallet anyway? Naruto looked over at Kabuto standing on Manda next to Orochimaru. I swear that Rasengan should have killed him. I hit him dead on. I splattered his innards all over my face and everything. Jiraiya looked at Naruto momentarily. If he's anything like his master, then he's a bastard to kill. Don't worry, kid, we're settling up right now. Tsunade looked out at Orochimaru from atop Katsuyu. This is it, Orochimaru. After this there will be one less Sannin in the world. Orochimaru simply chuckled while Manda hissed under him. Orochimaru, what do you think you're doing? Summoning me out here? Kabuto tried to calm the massive snake down. Manda, we just, silence whelp. I won't bother speaking to a flunky like you. Manda turned angry eyes to the top of his head. When this is over, I'll be expecting over 100 sacrifices. Orochimaru smirked. Of course, nothing less for you, Manda. Kabuto let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. Thank goodness. If Manda knew Orochimaru-sama couldn't use jutsu, he might just eat us. Jiraiya patted Naruto on the head. Alright kid, it's deadly serious now, stay out of things unless I say otherwise, even if you think you see an opening it's probably a feint. Naruto snorted and slapped Jiraiya's hand from his head. I'm aware of the level of this fight, Rasengan, and I'm also not stupid enough to fall for any half-assed feints. As far as I'm concerned, I'm your trump card if anything. Jiraiya looked at Naruto in a confused manner. How so, Gaki? Naruto smirked. Think about it, Orochimaru can't use his arms to use jutsu. Kabuto and Shizune don't really have any long-range jutsu. You and I are the only ones that can fire stuff from a distance, and I can make an ungodly amount of Kage Bunshin, making tons of cannon fodder, potential attackers. I'm your ace in the hole here. Jiraiya chuckled. Well, I guess that's one thing about you that didn't change. You always want to be in the fight. Naruto scratched his head. Yeah, I guess it's in my blood or something. Jiraiya patted Gamabunta on the head. Let's go, Bunta. Gamabunta drew his tanto and rushed at Manda, who slithered away rapidly, surprising Naruto. Damn, that big-ass snake is ridiculously fast. Manda moved to Gamabunta's blind spot and attempted to bite down on him, poisonous fangs glistening in the sunlight. Gamabunta jumped aside in time to dodge the strike and hopped away. Katsuyu moved in and launched acid from her mouth at Manda once again, showing deceptive speed. Manda slipped away and rushed Gamabunta. The boss toad lifted his sword to block Manda's bite, but with a swing of his tail he knocked the sword out of Gamabunta's webbed hands. Katsuyu launched more acid out at Manda, but he dodged before it could hit. Manda rushed over to Katsuyu and began constricting her. Tsunade noticed her boss summon in dire straits. Katsuyu separate the massive slug did as commanded and broke off into tons of smaller forms, disorienting Manda, who had been wrapped around her at the time. Jiraiya and Gamabunta decided to take advantage of the momentary advantage given to them. Gamabunta jumped back to gain some space while Jiraiya, on his head, went through hand signs. Gamabunta, give me some oil. Gamabunta spat out a glob of oil as Jiraiya held his fingers to his mouth to make a fireball. Kaiten Gamayu Enden fire release toad oil flame bullet. The massive firestream that followed engulfed Manda, seemingly melting his figure. However, it revealed to simply be a snakeskin. Manda then burst from the ground behind Gamabunta. Naruto, who had been sitting back the entire time, saw this and whipped through hand signs. Fuuten Fugen Saiken. Wind release divine fist of the wind god. Naruto shot out a double-fisted punch at Manda, who recoiled with the markings of fists on his face. Manda hissed as he coiled himself up, the stinging marks still evident. Little fucking brat. Jiraiya grinned at the shot Naruto had taken at the powerful summon until he blinked. Wait, where's Tsunade? Right on cue, Tsunade flew at Manda, holding Gamabunta's tanto and slammed the blade through his mouth, pinning him to the ground. Naruto's eyes widened at the feat of strength. Rasengan, remind me to never pull the crap that I tried when I first met Ba-chan ever again. Jiraiya patted his head. Well, first of all, calling her Ba-chan is just asking for it. Naruto scoffed. That's pushing it. If I won't stop calling you Rasengan, then how can she stop me from calling her Ba-chan? Super strength beatdown be damned. Tsunade ran up Manda's body and began pummeling Orochimaru while Kabuto's attention was held by Shizune. Naruto Sweat dropped at the sight of the snake Sanin taking such a beating. Why you think we should jump in? Or something. Jiraiya had his telescope out with a stupid grin on his face. Nah, Tsunade's got it. Kid. Naruto's eye twitched as the fight persisted. No, I mean for Orochimaru, his facial structure has to be liquidated by now. Kami let it be known that the guy can take one hell of a punch if nothing else. He can't even get up a guard to block. That sucks. Tsunade sent him flying with one last massive shot. Kabuto rushed to his side and picked him up. Orochimaru glared out at Tsunade. Damn. You Tsunade, my plans have failed for now. Do not think this is over. There is still another way to heal my arms, and the next time I'll kill you both. With that being said, he and Kabuto sunk into the earth to make their escape. Naruto, Jiraiya and Shizune appeared next to her as all of the summons had long since dispersed. Jiraiya slapped Naruto on the shoulder. Good job, brat. A high-level fight like this is over and you aren't an ugly red smudge on the landscape. Naruto sighed and rolled his shoulder. No respect. I don't get no respect at all. Shizune smiled and kissed him on the cheek. I respect you, Naruto-kun. Naruto chuckled in disbelief and shook his head with a slight smile on his face. And that somehow made this day of bullshit somewhat worth it. Thank you, Shizune-chan. Tsunade smirked as she walked over to Naruto. Well then, brat, you won the bet, got the necklace, and now we're going back to Konoha. What are we going to do now? Naruto stood still in thought for a moment before turning on his heel and heading back to town. He waved over his shoulder as he walked away. We just got through fighting Orochimaru and I've been training non-stop for about a week. I'm going to go sleep like the dead. You guys can go do whatever the hell you want. The amassed adults had a chuckle as they heard Naruto grumbling about Kabuto's blood being all in his clothes. Tsunade shook her head at his retreating figure. He's going to be a fine man one day, and perhaps a fine Hokage too. Jiraiya put a hand on her shoulder. You don't know the half of it. A lecherous grin came upon his face. Now that that's all done, a woman like you can't be seen in clothes with blood all over them. That's a travesty. It should be a dress or nothing. Luckily for you, I happen to have no dress back in my room. Naruto could only shake his head as the sounds of a solid thwack, followed by Jiraiya flying overhead towards town, rang out. The walk back to Konoha had been entirely uneventful. And this is what terrified Jiraiya more than anything else. Naruto had said no more than 5 sentences to him over the course of the trip home, and whenever he did, it was simply business. He spoke to Tsunade and Shizune on a regular basis. He had gotten along quite well with Tsunade's dark-haired attendant, go figure, but whenever Jiraiya would try to jump into the conversations, Naruto would either end them or simply box him out. Apparently he had been telling the truth and no just shooting the shit. When they started, he would be professional because they were on a mission, and now that it was all but over, Jiraiya was starting to see just how Naruto was feeling about him. Upon their arrival in Konoha, they all headed up to the Hokage Tower to get Tsunade introduced in. Situated grilling by the Sandame's old advisors included Konohamaru didn't really take kindly to someone replacing his grandfather's position, so he holed himself up inside the office, barring entry with traps and blocking the door. Somehow he ended up keeping people out all day long. Upon being informed by Konohamaru's friends Udon and Moegi, Naruto just walked up. Sparta kicked the heavy oaken door off of the hinges, sending all of the stuff behind it flying. Walked through the office using the door to block all of Konohamaru's traps and dragged the kid out by his collar. He chose to do this himself because he knew Tsunade would have done roughly the same thing if she really wanted to get into the office, and she might not have been so nice about it. Naruto took Konohamaru to the top of the Hokage Tower and sat him down to talk. So what the hell is wrong with you, kid? Naruto got a tick mark on his head when Konohamaru clammed up and pulled his knees to his chest. Okay, you can either tell me and we can talk this out, or I'll just do like my trainer did for me when I was a kid and beat the crap out of you until you forget why you're all mopey in the first place. Konohamaru paled when a mild amount of killing intent began leaking out of Naruto. What happened to you, boss? You've been different since the Chunin exams. Naruto sighed. It's a long story, and because I know what's wrong with you, it might make you even more pissed off than you already are for one reason or another. Now don't change the subject. What's your malfunction today? Konohamaru snapped at him. I thought you already knew. Naruto answered back snippily. I do. I just want to hear it from you. Facing up to your own problems is the first step towards moving past them. Konohamaru looked up with tears in his eyes. What if I don't want to move past them? I don't want to move past my grandfather, boss. Naruto stayed silent and let Konohamaru speak. Everyone is moving on, going forward with everything. It's like he was never here. He was the Hokage, boss, and everyone's going to forget about him. Naruto steeled himself. He really didn't feel like touching anything that involved Sarutobi with a 10-foot pole right then, but this kid needed him, and being a ninja means doing things that you don't want to for the greater good. Look, Konohamaru, he was the Hokage for many years. Longer than anybody else. He had a long reign, and he's done so much for this place. I'm sure everybody has a standout memory of him. Naruto then grumbled under his breath. Kami knows that I do. Naruto shook off that dark line of thinking. The point is that someone that has touched so many people can never truly just disappear. Trust me, brat. Chances are that they'll be talking about him long after we're dead. You can go up to just about any of the ninja in this place and the majority of the civilians, and they can probably give you some stories. Konohamaru started drying his eyes. What about you, boss? What kind of stories do you have of grandpa? Naruto held back a frown. I don't think you're old enough to hear about my story of the old man. Maybe one day I can tell you, but it's better that I don't right now. Naruto patted Konohamaru on the head. Do you feel better now? Konohamaru nodded. Are you going to cry a bitch around me again anytime soon? Konohamaru shook his head. Good. Naruto picked the kid up and sent him off on his way. He made his way back to Tsunade's office, where she had a mass of Chunin picking up the mess left by Naruto, going hard on the door. Seated behind what was soon to be her desk, she smirked upon seeing the young shinobi enter. Nice mess, Gaki. Why did you kick my door? Naruto raised an eyebrow. 2 reasons. You would have done it yourself eventually, and honestly, I've wanted to do that for years. That just gave me an excuse. Naruto took a seat as the last of the mess was cleaned and the door was put back. Tsunade took on a business face when the door was shut. So what's going on with you and Jiraiya? You weren't speaking to him at all. On the way back, Naruto locked eyes with the older blonde. Are you sure you want to hear this? It's not something really vital for you to know, and I'm also pretty sure it's a village secret, probably above me being the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. Tsunade's eyes widened momentarily before she smirked. Well, I'm going to be Hokage now, right? What's a village leader without a few dark little secrets? Naruto chuckled. Get comfortable, because you're going to be sitting there for a while asking me questions and stuff. Tsunade frowned and pulled a bottle of sake from the desk. Naruto sweat dropped. Wow, you certainly stashed that quickly, didn't you? Tsunade scoffed as she pulled out a cup. It's not mine. Smartass Sarutobi-sensei left it there before I ever even got here. Naruto sharply inhaled breath. That's right, the old man did train you 3 twisted Sannin, didn't he? That might make this an uncomfortable conversation. He snapped his head around. No Anbu guards. Tsunade shrugged. I'm not Hokage yet kid, I still have to get through coronation first, it's just us for now. Naruto kept silent as he thoroughly checked the room before he looked to Tsunade once more. So did Ero Sennin tell you anything about me? Tsunade nodded. What do you know? Tsunade poured herself a cup. Other than the stuff that I already knew, he let me in on your base character and stuff apparently he left out the scary battle phase part. Naruto clenched his hands together as he set his chin on them. That's because he didn't know about it. I didn't used to be a goofy loud fuck up until a few years ago. I was more like I am now, calm, collected, focused, and I had something of a mean streak too. Tsunade looked confused. So your personality changed? How is this a secret? Naruto shook his head. It's not that my personality evolved, it's how it evolved. Haven't you noticed that I'm too good for my own good at fighting? I shouldn't have been able to stop Orochimaru's surprise attack on me back in Tanzaku Gai. If I was just a genin, hell even a chunin, I was spamming jutsus that I shouldn't know how to do and fighting on par with a Junin level ninja. Tsunade flashed back to all of the things he had done since she had met him, and then she realized. Flashback. Tsunade's eyes drifted over to him. So who's the brat? Jiraiya. Jiraiya looked at Naruto, who was wearing an unreadable expression minus the twitching. This is Naruto Uzumaki, my new apprentice. Naruto's eyebrows shot up. Apprentice? Since when? Jiraiya smirked at the boy. Since you signed the Toad contract before the invasion, kid. Congratulations, Naruto grumbled and placed his face on his hands. Great. The guy that locked away my strength and skill wants to make amends and teach me how to fight again. XXX. Kabuto pointed at him accusingly. No way. From what I've seen and from the information on you, you're nothing a low level genin. Naruto chuckled. Well, that's what the Konoha records had on one Kabuto Yakushi also. If you'll recall, we all know how that turned out, right, Mr. Spy? If you were capable of it, then why wouldn't I be? I didn't even have to join any ranks and keep suspicion off like you did. All I had to do was not get caught. Naruto tapped his finger on his head. I had the plans for your invasion all up here way back then. Every move you had planned out over the long term was all up here. All of your bases, the info that was listed on your cursed seal, the true nature of Orochimaru's immortality jutsu. It's all here. The only reason your invasion had even half of a chance of even getting off of the ground was because of some unfortunate business that ended with me getting my memory and abilities sealed off before I could tell the necessary people. End flashback. Tsunade looked at Naruto and locked eyes with him, taking note of the scar over his right eye and how he was patiently waiting for the point to hit her. There was something done to you back then, and Jiraiya was the one who did it. Naruto smiled faintly. You're half right. Ero Sennin was the one who sealed me, but it was ordered by another. Sarutobi Gigi really screwed me over back then. Tsunade's jaw was hanging. Sarutobi sensei. Why? What happened to force him to seal you off? Naruto's eyes blazed over angrily. Nothing happened to force him to seal me. I was injured during a covert mission. Ero Sennin said he found me and brought me to the old man, where they found out it was me. Apparently they thought I was some kind of threat too strong for my age to be left alone. They didn't even wait for me to regain consciousness before they took me and locked away my strength and speed, my skills, my jutsu, my knowledge, everything. Tsunade was enthralled with the story. So what happened then? Why did the seal break? Did one of them take it off? Naruto shook his head. I had my mind regressed back to the time when I was 4 years old. For all intents and purposes, I had to learn things like how to read all over again. I was mentally behind everybody else in the academy and everything. I broke the seal during the invasion. And since then it's been a matter of picking up the pieces and relearning everything. Those 3 jutsu that I used against Kabuto, I have tons of those. Those were just the ones that I had the time To relearn, not even master. Tsunade still had a question. Why did Sarutobi-sensei do it? Why did he think you were dangerous? Naruto leaned back in his chair. I can't tell you that it would be a matter of total betrayal. It's not like it's that good of a secret, but let Ero Sennin be the one to tell you. I'm technically not even supposed to exist, if you catch my drift. Tsunade nodded. One more thing, where do you think you rank in the overall roster of my active shinobi? Naruto shrugged. How should I know? It's not like I've fought any of them to find out or anything, Naruto pointed out at her suddenly. But fuck being a genin, though you know damn well I'm better than that. Anything other than that will do right now. Tsunade smiled at him. Noted. Now get out of my office. You're the only real ninja from this village that I've actually gotten to meet yet. She put away the sake and shooed him off. When he was out of sight, she called out loudly, Shizune, call a meeting for me for all ninja the rank of Chunin and over. After the coronation we have so business to sort out. XXX. Naruto sat on his bed back in his apartment. He had decided to stop looking for Danzo. If Danzo wanted to see him, he could easily find him. It's not like it was hard anymore. He didn't need anyone to sort the whole mess out anymore, meaning that honestly there was no reason to look for Danzo. His original goal was to be a ninja for Konoha. Sarutobi had proverbially blocked one path with a boulder, but instead of complaining that the way had been blocked, Naruto had followed the path the boulder had taken to find a completely new destination, to find his own way towards becoming one. Danzo had never made it a secret that he thought of Naruto as a tool, an expendable soldier, while Naruto had more value than most, if not all, of his other operatives. When your house burns down, you don't grab the stuff inside. You just run. And when Naruto was caught on the job and exposed, Danzo had to wash his hands of him. It was all he could have done. Give them Naruto and cut your losses. The only thing a man like Danzo doing the things he was doing had as an option. He knew Jiraiya would be confronted by Tsunade about sealing him. He knew he'd tell her what he and Sarutobi had learned about Nei and try to color her opinion, but honestly loyalty only went so far as Naruto was concerned, and being blacklisted by Nei pretty much got rid of his loyalty. If you don't want me, I don't need you, was the way he saw it. The best Danzo would get from him at this point was him keeping his mouth shut about Nei, which was all he was going to do in the first place. Jiraiya's arrogance in his own ability to gather information kept him from ever asking Naruto what he knew about Nei, thinking that Naruto had been a young flunky and didn't have much information. It's always fun to have preconceived notions, isn't it? Not really smart, though Naruto knew quite a bit. He had been trained by Danzo almost personally and had information given to him by the man himself. No misdirection necessary. Naruto would never have broken to torture. It had been made sure of and tested thoroughly, because Danzo never placed the seal, ensuring he would be quiet about Nei on him. Therefore Danzo told him things. Everybody needs at least one confidant, but that was not important either. He was now a Konoha ninja, no longer in Nei. He answered to another higher up and belonged to their forces now. Naruto groaned as he sat up in a meditative position. The last thought he had before slipping into his own mind was that he was still a weapon. He had just been lost and collected by another. XXX. Naruto opened his eyes to reveal himself standing at the door of his own apartment. Naruto sighed. Well, it's better than a sewer, I guess. He opened the door and walked through his Mindscape apartment to find a dog-sized fox with 9 tails and a collar asleep on what was supposed to be his bed. Obviously the Kyuubi. The Kyuubi's ears twitched as he drew closer, and it sat its head up to let out a vulpine yawn. Hello, Kit, I have to say. It's a major improvement over the sewer. Naruto sat on the bed next to the fox and looked over at the awakening Biju. I can see you're enjoying it. It's still not as cool as it used to be though. If I Want to see my own apartment? Then I sure as hell wouldn't come in here, the fox growled in comfort. As Naruto shook his head with a faint smirk. So is my mind good enough to broker out the old deal? Again or what? Kyuubi cracked open an eye and stood to walk over to Naruto. Well, since I can make physical contact with you again, we can do this right now. Anything you want to add? Anything you didn't like? You want to get rid of the trigger? Naruto raised his eyebrow. No, I liked the trigger. Hell no, we're keeping that. That was always cool. Keep that. Also, you can still see and feel everything. I do. You can talk to me, but I can still mute you. Spoil sport. Kyuubi butted Naruto with its muzzle. Naruto kept reeling off deals. I get to retrain using your chakra and I have to get ridiculously strong again per the first agreement. I still have to kick the guy that helped the Yondaime come up with the seal that imprisoned you in me in the balls, and I think I'll enjoy doing that more than you will. Am I forgetting anything? Kyuubi scratched behind its ears. No, not really. If you want to make another deal or something, I'm always open to negotiations. Remember that, kid, and don't wait too long to use the trigger. You know I always liked that move. Naruto stood up and let the Kyuubi lay back down on the bed. Alright, I'm gone later, you lazy ass fox. Kyuubi batted one of its tails in acknowledgement as Naruto left the apartment. Mindscape XXX. Naruto opened his eyes and sat up to reveal the hazy outline of the sun outside. Damn it, did I black out until morning? Naruto shakily stood up and went into his bathroom to help wake himself up as he was brushing his teeth. A knock came at his window. Spitting and rinsing his mouth, he then walked over to the window in his bedroom, revealing an Anbu in a bear mask. Kuma-san, I must have slept through Tsunade Bashin's coronation rite. The Anbu nodded. Tsunade-sama wishes for you to meet her at the tower immediately. Naruto nodded. Sure thing, just let me change clothes and then I'll go. The Anbu used Shunshin to disappear from sight as Naruto shut his window upon changing and leaving his house. Naruto was once again subjected to the usual looks of disdain and scorn from the villagers. Naruto went through a mental checklist as he walked towards the tower. I'm gonna get that guy. That bitch is screwed. Oh, that guy is getting fucked when I get free time. Naruto had not lost his luster for pranks, and seeing as how he needed to vent on someone anyway, why not take it out on the people that dislike you regardless? As he arrived in the tower, he found the same Anbu from his house standing in front of the door of Tsunade's office. Hokage-sama is waiting inside. Uzumaki-san. Naruto nodded and entered. Naruto found the office filled wall to wall with many of Konoha's high-level ninja. Naruto sauntered, pushed, slid and mashed his way through until he reached Tsunade's desk. You wanted to see me, Ba-chan? Tsunade glared at Naruto as she heard snickering coming from the back. Yes, brat, I asked for you to come today so that I could get a general idea of your promotion. I've asked these Junin here because they must know more of what you're capable of than I do. Naruto snorted. Yeah. Right. Tsunade opened the floor for the others to voice their opinion on Naruto. Needless to say, most had nothing too flattering to say about the blonde. The only thing most said that was actually good was that he had high reserves, and then the compliments dropped off sharply. Naruto could only stand silently and pondering. That guy's getting it. That guy's getting it. Oh hell no, he called me what? That guy's getting fucked. Meanwhile, the Kyuubi was doing some musing of its own. You could kill that guy. You could kill that guy. What the hell? That guy wouldn't last more than 5 seconds against you. How is he getting a say in this? Kurenai then stepped forward to take her turn. Naruto has high chakra reserves and stamina which lend themselves to him well when he uses Kage Bunshin no jutsu. Other than that, and an ability to think on his feet. However, I cannot give him a good grade in The other facets of being a shinobi: he is usually reckless and quick to act before thinking. He has poor chakra control due to such high reserves. His taijutsu has almost no true form. He has no aptitude for genjutsu, and other than his aforementioned kage bunshin, he has no true ninjutsu to speak of. In the back, Iruka had to grit his teeth hearing all of these people speak about Naruto as if he was a burden on the program. Asuma pretty much agreed to the same thing, leaving Naruto looking around. Where the hell is Kakashi? Shouldn't someone have my back in here? Asuma looked at Naruto. Good luck with that kid. Kakashi isn't going to show for this until we're 3 hours in. Naruto felt like slamming his head into something, a person or inanimate object. It didn't really matter to him. Tsunade noticed that everyone was done with their opinions and looked to Naruto. Well, we've heard from everyone else, Naruto, so what about you? Do you have anything to say about what you've been told today? You have the floor. Tsunade shivered as a dark grin came upon Naruto's face. He turned to face all of his superiors. Well, speaking personally, fuck you all, as the jaws dropped of everyone in the room. Naruto began walking around the room. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. Not you, Iruka-sensei, you didn't say a thing, but yeah, basically fuck everyone with no real input or a true perspective based on real knowledge. He continued walking around the room. You say my jutsu list is pitiful. Did you ever know if anyone tried to teach me any? Have you ever seen me fight other than the one time against Neji? You say my control is shoddy. Well, if you have enough chakra to make upwards of 1000 kage bunshin, then I'd love to see you try and keep it up to snuff. You say my taijutsu sucks. Come and fight me and find out just how bad at it I am. Having an aptitude at genjutsu is kind of hard without someone teaching it to you, isn't it? All of you love to talk about how much you've heard that I suck to make you feel better about your own teams, but none of you have even the slightest idea of what I'm capable of, and while I kind of like that sometimes right now, it's really starting to piss me off. Naruto finished and sat on Tsunade's desk calmly. I can see you all have something to say, so go ahead and say it. The room exploded with Junin and Chunin yelling at Naruto for his disrespect and begging Tsunade to discipline him. Naruto turned to look at Tsunade and shrugged when he saw her massaging her temple. Well, you said I had the floor, that means I can say whatever I want. Tsunade sighed in resignment. I suppose I dug my own grave on that one. Asuma calmly stared Naruto down. Do you really think you're ready for a promotion, kid? You didn't come off as a world beater during the Chunin exams. Naruto scoffed. Whatever, and I suppose you'd rather have someone like Shikamaru be promoted than instead of me. Asuma blinked. Actually yes, he showed great strategic thinking and combat savvy. Naruto rolled his eyes. Yeah, and what will he do when he ends up going against someone that can flat out overpower him and disrupt his plans? He's just lucky Tamari got caught up in playing his game. If she really wanted to kill him, she could have just ripped the tree he was hiding in up by the roots with her windjutsu and crushed him. Hell, I could beat Shikamaru. As a matter of fact, I could beat your entire team if I had to. He looked at Kurenai. I could beat everyone on your team. Hell, I beat Kiba with my chakra and reflexes disrupted an hour after finishing the second stage of the exams with no downtime. Naruto shrugged. You know what, as a matter of fact, I could probably beat Guy's team too. I already beat Neji. Rock Lee's hurt, and if he ever recovers will need rehab before he could step to me, and Tenten'll beat her the way Tamari did if she hasn't learned anything new. And don't even get me started on my team. Those teams are apparently the best, which means that there isn't a single goddamn genin in this entire village that can beat me. Tsunade spoke up before they all broke into another uproar. That's quite a statement. Brat, care to back that up with action? Naruto smirked at Tsunade. Do you really want me to put 10 of your genin in the hospital? You sure you can spare that kind of manpower? Tsunade couldn't help but return the smirk Naruto was giving her. Fine, then in 1 week you will fight Asuma's Kurenai's and Guy's genin in addition to the ones on your own team. If you can adequately impress, then you'll be promoted to Chunin. She spoke again as Naruto opened his mouth. We'll handle anything further if you can get a promotion from this test. Kurenai spoke up. Hokage-sama, you can't be serious. I don't know of any genin that can take on 3 other genin teams, let alone a rookie and the dead last of this year's graduates. Asuma nodded in agreement. The kid has never shown anything special. What makes you think that something like this is necessary? Ibiki stepped forward, having kept silent the entire time. This dead last, as you so eloquently put it, captured the Kage's children and took out an entire squad of Auto shinobi that had our own forces pinned down during the Suna Auto invasion. He at least deserves the chance to prove something to all of you that can't see past the titles that you all gave him in the first place. Naruto smiled. Note to self: do not bombscare Ibiki with horrible guerrilla warfare ass pranks. Tsunade nodded. Thank you, Ibiki. She looked out at the other amassed ninja. I have personally seen this boy face down Orochimaru's spy Kabuto Yakushi and come out on top. He even went head to head with Orochimaru himself and helped me and Jiraiya fight him off. If he is what you call a dead last, then I'm glad that you didn't determine the skill levels back when I was a genin, or else I would probably still be one. Naruto looked at Tsunade. So are we done? Because I would love to go and vent my frustrations right now. This entire meeting has pissed me right the fuck off. Tsunade sighed. Language brat. And yes, that was all I needed. Be at the Chunin exam stadium at 10 a.m. next Monday for your fights. Naruto nodded and bowed to her before moving to open and jump out the window to begin racing along the rooftops. As soon as he left, the office broke into a smattering of talk, mostly centered around the audacity of Naruto and how that demon brat was going to get slaughtered next week. Tsunade finally got fed up with it all. Silence. What does this look like? The Junin lounge. Get out. As they began to leave, she called, Asuma Kurenai Gaiyu 3 stay. They did as was told. The rules for the test will be roughly that he will fight each genin one by one. The other rules will be given on the day of the test. You can all get together to determine the order in which you want them to fight. You all need to inform your teams of my decision for next week. Prepare them well. Trust me, they'll need every bit of training they can get. Asuma looked skeptical. It's just one genin. Tsunade-sama, even if we don't train them, he couldn't possibly beat more than 2 in a row. Tsunade gave up and shrugged. It's your team, Asuma. You can do whatever you feel you should with them. They're your responsibility. You're all dismissed. XXX. Naruto ran along the rooftops back to his home when a familiar presence landed behind him. Sasuke Temeyer. Out of the hospital, I see. Sasuke glared at Naruto's back. Fight me, Dobi. Dobi, huh? Naruto didn't turn to face him. You can fight me in a week like everybody else. Sasuke looked at him in confusion. Like everybody else? What are you talking about? Naruto shook his head. Go find Kakashi and ask him, and while you're at it, tell him I'm not going on any missions with you all until the week is up. Maybe. Naruto disappeared in a swirl of leaves, leaving Sasuke alone on the roof. He knows. Shunshin, what have I been missing while I was in the hospital? How strong are you, Dobi? XXX. Naruto once again sat in his apartment meditating silently when his eyes snapped open and he flung a kunai just in time for a poof to go off in his house. Ma, Naruto, you should really be more careful with these things. Kakashi appeared holding the kunai as the smoke faded. You do know that we need To talk right, Naruto motioned for Kakashi to have a seat as the white-haired man did as directed. Naruto had moved to a more comfortable position on the ground to sit. So what do you need, Kakashi? Kakashi-sensei. Naruto. Kakashi finished with an eye smile. Naruto snorted. The last person I called. Sensei actually taught me stuff. Go ahead and ask your question. Did Sasuke Teme talk to you yet? Kakashi sighed. Yes, and I've also heard from Hokage-sama about your test. Naruto, do you really think this is a good idea? Do you truly believe that you're ready for such a promotion? I mean, I can see that you finally dropped the orange and that scar on you is a new touch, but it takes more than that to be a chunin. Naruto smirked. Then it's a good thing that I'll end up being more than a chunin when this is all over. Then Kakashi's eye widened. You can't be serious. Naruto gazed at Kakashi seriously. I'm dead serious. I'm no genin level ninja. I wouldn't even call myself chunin. Doing all of this kiddie crap has dulled my edge. When you're systematically fed garbage, that's what you eventually become. Garbage. Kakashi was confused by the whole turn of events here. He expected to simply admonish Naruto for such a brazen act of disrespect, get him to cancel his test and be done with it, but the trend with Naruto these days seemed to be getting more questions and problems than answers and solutions. Naruto, what are you saying? All genin have to go through missions like the ones you take? We've been over this. Naruto chuckled. Go and talk to Ba-chan or even Ero Sennin about my skill level, and listen to what they say. They've both got the closest inkling to what I can really do more than anyone, and the truth is I'm not even as good as I should be. At first I thought it was just a work in progress, that if I just trained like I used to that it would come back to me, but I recently realized something. Naruto clenched his fists. I realized just how fucked up I am. When I fought Kabuto, when we went to go get Ba-chan, I was talking to the guy talking instead of just running through him and moving on to more important matters. I was casually engaging him like it was a game, like we weren't both there to kill each other, instead of me running through him like a buzzsaw, which was what I should have done. I should have been kill first, ask questions later. I realized this when I noted that he had gotten back up from the Rasengan. Naruto pointed out the window at Konoha. It's this place. When I was little, that never would have happened. I would have just killed him and moved along. This place's arrogance rubs off on you. The academy stresses stealth, but apparently stealth isn't good enough for a Konoha ninja once they graduate, seeing as how I've yet to actually meet one that actively uses it in fights. Kakashi took offense to that. Naruto, Konoha's will of fire stresses protecting your fellow villagers and comrades above all else. The way you speak of combat, someone would be left out and could get injured. Do you not remember my first lesson to you? Naruto scoffed. More like your only lesson, but who's counting? Yes, Kakashi, but sometimes a weapon can protect better from the shadows than out in the light. You all specialize in open area fighting. You all are just glorified samurai with special techniques for the most part. Naruto sighed and stood when he felt Kakashi's glare on him. Fine, nothing I say is going to make you change the way you think, so I'll just use the week off that I told you I was going to take. Naruto grabbed the weapons and items he sealed in his scrolls, his sword, and headed towards the door. Kakashi noted that he looked like he was going on a mission. Naruto, where are you going? Naruto looked back at him, a smile faintly playing on his lips. I'm going to get something very important to me back. Don't even bother to try and look for me either. If you want to talk to me, leave a message here or wait until I get back in on Monday to try to speak to me. Naruto stopped at the door before shutting it. You can try to find me, but you'll just be wasting your time, because if you can actually find me, then this week was a waste. Naruto shut his door, leaving one confused scarecrow inside. XXX 1 week later. Every single solitary soul in Konohagakure no Sato was on edge and watching around every corner for their own safety. It seemed like the prankster of hell had returned with a fiery vengeance only no one could prove it was him this time. The pranks over the course of 5 days were reminiscent of the days of yore, but only cranked up substantially for a select few others. Day 1, it was quiet. Nothing really happened to anyone on this day with the exception of one lone pervert at the hot springs who was stripped, tied up and had pervert spray painted on him before being thrown inside of the woman's baths. Oddly enough, he was already crying about his testicles before the women even laid a finger on him. In retribution, Day 2 was noted by a coded message sent out to the Hokage stating intent to pester and disorient the village into oblivion. It stated that she was not a victim and to handle this like she would anything else, so she simply pulled out a bottle of sake and went about her day. The first true shots were fired early that morning, however, when the owners of stores and restaurants in the villages inexplicably found their stock and inventory switched out with each other. Everything, even the stuff in storage and lock-up restaurants, found food switched with clothing, leather and other goods needed to make clothes. Shinobi outfitters found their weaponry and armor replaced with flowers or canned goods. The entire day for them was spent figuring out who had what from whose store. Needless to say, the Merchants Guild had more work to do on this day than any other. The walls of the hot springs separating the men's and women's sides were blown down randomly during the day, much to one side's delight and the other's chagrin. The academy had their targets' bullseyes packed to the brim with mass amounts of kunai and shuriken stuck to them. Inside each classroom had the definition of stealth written on each chalkboard, and each student's seat had a handwritten and copied pamphlet on how to develop true sneaking skills. No teacher at the school's desk was free of nasty troppage, ranging from silly string to stink bombs to paint and glitter mini cannons, with the exception of one Iruka Imino, who had a sealed steaming bowl of ramen within his chopsticks, helpfully included. Day 3. At 5 p.m. in the evening, the Junin lounge had been riddled with pranks. At the lounge, the common area refrigerator was filled with urine samples swiped from the hospital. Replacing all of the things that had been stored within, starch was injected into the couch cushions, making them hard, lumpy and uncomfortable. A space heater had been hidden in all 4 corners of the room, eventually making the room stiflingly hot, and unfortunately for all who were within at the time, the tops of the ceiling fan blades had been coated in itching powder. Day 4. Apparently the prankster had a wild hair up his ass on this day because he was getting ballsy enough to make attempts on the clans of the village. The Inazuka clan kennels were a miserable place to be, as the prankster had swiped a vial of pheromones from the vet's office and let it go within the kennels of the Ninken, the poor genin. Squads that were hired that day to walk the dogs were subjected to a sight better left to a twisted nature documentary of some sort. Entire teams were mentally scarred from the scenes. The Aburame clan was heckled repeatedly for hours by their Kakaichu, repeatedly reacting to a delicious source of chakra being flared on their grounds in different areas randomly and blatantly. When they arrived on the scene to check it out, they couldn't even find the faintest of signatures. The final massive flare-up, however, scared the shit out of them, being something reminiscent of the night the Kyuubi attacked 12 years ago. The Nara clan's deer had all been removed from their grounds and spread out all over Konoha now, while the deer were just as easygoing as the clansmen and wouldn't move too far from where they were placed. It was still damn troublesome for the ones sent out to retrieve them. The Hyuga clan grounds ended up having flash bomb traps set up over random areas of mass traffic, doorways, hallways, the waiting room outside of the clan head's office, all of them and more. Every Hyuga ended up being flashed at least once during the day. Those that thought that Activating their Byakugan while roaming the halls to find the bombs before they went off would be a good idea. Not only failed miserably, they ended up getting it worse that way. The most unnecessary and shining example of overkill that could be provided took place at the Uchiha clan main building, where one Sasuke Uchiha resided. From the second his foot hit the floor that day, he instantly tripped a wire that activated a mass of smoke bombs that filled the house room by room. As he went to brush his teeth, he ended up heaving in the toilet due to the fact that his toothpaste had been switched with a tube of raw ground beef. All of Sasuke's shirts had an iron-on emblem of a heart on the front of them. Even the undershirts. Seeing this, he scoffed and decided, since he was staying at home that day to train, he didn't need a shirt. As he walked into the kitchen, he was blasted with a hidden glitter cannon. Glitter is mother fair, so you just have to imagine this. When he opened his refrigerator door, cologne was dumped on him from above. Now getting pissed off that his attempts to start the day kept ending with some kind of shenanigans, he decided to head outdoors to practice with his kunai. Upon opening his door, he was greeted with a sight that until this moment was something saved for his Academy Day nightmares. Standing out in front of his house was a sea of fangirls, and much to his horror, a few fanboys gathered from around the village. The day before this occurrence, flyers were put up all over Konoha advertising Sasuke Uchiha hosting a mystery contest of sorts at his home, with the prize of course being one day with him alone to do whatever. Now the sight of Sasuke Uchiha stumbling out of his house, smoke billowing behind him, without a shirt, glinting in the sunlight like some sort of new age vampire, coupled with the overwhelming smell of the cologne drenching his frame, was simply put overkill for the young women there for their Uchiha-sama. Now Sasuke, not being slow on the uptake by any stretch of the imagination, had his Bishonen senses tingling the second he opened the door, and with good reason he took the staring, hungry looks of the females in attendance as his cue to get the hell out of there, taking off in a dead sprint towards town to find a place to hide and lose the raving fangirls. And this is where the cologne came in, because he could run, but smelling like an entire bottle of cheap-ass body spray, he damn sure couldn't hide. And so Konoha was subjected to the sight of Rookie of the Year, the last loyal Uchiha Sasuke Uchiha, running around town frantically ducking and dodging attempts from other girls to make him theirs and win his love. Day 5 at the limits of their own sanity. Nothing really happened on this day. It didn't have to. By now the citizens of the village were so frazzled by their week in hell that they ended up screwing with themselves. Prices in the general stores were dropped to all-time lows in a collaborative effort to lure out the prankster in question, who they figured had to restock. They were wrong and simply ended up getting mobbed all at once by artisans ordering raw materials in bulk after having everything ruined by the prankster. Young kids rolling through with pockets full of cash and a sweet tooth, and pretty much everybody in Konoha that liked to take advantage of a good deal. They lost more money than they really made. The prices were so low the ninja sent to patrol and watch out for suspicious activities were at the end of their rope, so much so that in addition to turning on each other and hatching crackpot theories about whodunit, they had taken to harassing the general public, the bags under their eyes, showing that they hadn't gotten any good sleep over this in days. By the end of the reign of terror, the only people not touched by the spree of pranking in some way were Tsunade herself, Shizune Konohamaru and his 3 friends, the ninja outfitting shop owned by Tenten's family Tuchi, and Ayame Ichiraku and Iruka Amino. The final prank was harmless compared to the rest of the week's activities. It consisted of every face on the Hokage monument with wide eyes painted on, looking out towards the Chunin exam stadium with stupid grins on their faces, with sundry sweets and refreshments being painted around their faces. Over their heads hung a massive banner stating simply, 10 a.m. Chunin Exam Stadium. Ant Cut. The next part will be released tomorrow. Bye.